Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of art, it's the Tenet Podcast. I'm Todd Pearson, coming to you from the 40 West Arts District in Lakewood, Colorado. And joining me from his podcast studio, exactly 400 miles away. That's right, boys and girls. We are proof that long-distance relationships do work. My partner, my friend, South Dakota's favorite son, Wes Brown.
Hey, Todd. Oh, my God. It's like 97 degrees outside, and I'm in the nice little chill of 62 degrees in my bunker. It's beautiful.
Man. Let's see what's the temperature in my studio.
86.
76.
Oh, that's not bad. That's livable.
Not bad. I'm sweating a little bit, but not terribly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll get hotter during the course of the afternoon.
How was your couple weeks since we were on?
Good.
Good.
I'm happy to be here with you.
Oh, I'm happy to be here with you. I actually went and seen our friend Mark Zimmerman and his wife, Mary Whiff, and they had a little art show with a couple other, Bonnie Fleming and Deborah Mitchell, and got to look at some great art and bought a couple pieces, one from Mary and one from Mark. And yeah, it was great. It was last Saturday. So, and they have a beautiful acreage out in the middle of the Black Hills, and wow, it was pretty close to Nemo, and it's beautiful out. So great day.
On.
Yeah.
Fantastic. What else has been going on?
That's about it. Just working, stressing my ass off, and
what?
like.
Hold on.
Yeah.
What? Who are you? Sergio. And who are you with? You're with us? Oh, we can call you Serge. Okay. What do you need, Sergio? Serge. Oh. A production? This is from the... Okay. Do you know that we have an intern?
You have an intern? When did that come about?
I don't know. Did you sanction this?
I did not. I'm not sure, like, Sergio. Serge?
Hey, let me see if I can get him. Sergio. Right. Serge. He's gone.
All right.
Apparently we have an intern now. His name is Sergio. He's good looking dude.
Is he?
Yeah. He looks like he just walked out of a Herb Ritz photograph.
Oh my God. Really?
Yeah.
No shirt, I would imagine.
He had a shirt on, but I could tell he was cut. Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. Well, hey, who knows? Like, we're moving up in the world.
And he just handed me a sheet.
Okay.
From our production team. I guess we have a production team now, too.
When did we get a production team?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I thought you knew about this, but apparently we have a production team.
I mean, I seen some come over the internet, some email stuff about SEO and production, but okay.
It got lost on me, too. So this is the first time I've heard about this. But anyway, I guess there's a thing that the production team wants us to do and try out today. So he handed me this sheet. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Let's do it.
Let's see what this says here. It says Tenet Top 10 for July 26, 2025. So I guess we're going to do a Tenet Top 10.
Okay. Tenet Top 10.
All right.
This is all new to me.
Yeah. I don't know about this, but we'll see. All right. So this is our Tenet Top 10 for the 26th of July. It says things you won't hear in the White House.
Ah, nice.
Things you won't hear in the White House.
Nice.
Are you
July
ready to do
26, 2025.
Do you want to do this?
Let's do it. Let's find.
No, I was going to send it to you. You could do it. You could read it.
Okay.
Do you want to read it? You want me to do it?
You can go ahead since you have it in your hand.
Well, I could text it or send you a picture of it.
Sure.
All right. Tenet Top 10 things you won't hear in the White House. Number 10, Mr. Hegseth, do you think you've maybe had too much to drink? Number 9, it smells like ass in here. Who wants to change the president? These are things you won't hear in the White House.
Right.
All right. Apparently, they've gotten used to the stench, so that's not something that gets discussed. Number 8. Do you think we should be a little nicer to Mexico?
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Number 7 of things you won't hear in the White House. Oh, Donald, you have such big, strong hands.
That's crazy. But right, you would never hear that in the White House.
Number 6, maybe the gold-plated stripper pole installed in the Oval Office with Melania's face stamped in it was a little much.
A little too much. Like
a little too much.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, why would you? Yeah. Maybe somebody like Bondi's face. Maybe that would be a better face to have on a stripper pole.
Or what's her name? The Levitt woman, the press secretary. That'd be better. She needs a little bit of levity in her world.
She does. She does. She's a little too serious.
Yep.
Yep.
Number 5, Mr. Rubio, can you please take your hands off the president's zipper?
Yeah, and he used to not even like the president. Now he's all over him, and evidently his hands all over his zipper. So imagine that.
Things you won't hear in the White House. Number 4, will you please hand Representative Green and Representative Boebert a napkin so they can wipe their mouths? I don't even know what that means.
I don't either.
What does that mean?
I have no idea. I have maybe a vaguely idea. I don't know if it involves knee pads, but I don't know. Maybe.
That sounds crass to me.
Yeah.
We got to talk to whoever wrote this.
Well, luckily you won't hear
ridiculous.
That in the White House.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, exactly. These are things you won't
hear.
So these aren't real things. These are
things
things
that you just won't hear. Right.
Yeah. Number 3, do you think we should invite Elon back?
Oh, I love that one. And you won't hear that in the White House because the bromance is over.
Yeah, it's a done deal.
It's a done deal. It's over.
Scorched earth.
What's that?
I said he's too proud to beg.
That's right.
He wants his buddy back, but he can't show weakness. He has to
exactly
keep that strong arm going.
That's right. That's right. Those big strong hands.
Strong hands.
Number 2, things you won't hear in the White House. Maybe we should release the Epstein files. You knew that had to be in there somewhere.
Yeah, well, and because his name is all over the Epstein files. So, I mean, obviously you're not going to hear that in the White House.
Yeah. And the number 1 thing you won't hear in the White House. Boy, those South Park boys are really funny.
Oh my God. And I love that episode, by the way. And I haven't watched South Park in years. And I was I was laughing. So
it was a win. I feel like this week.
Yeah. We'll have to ask our guest this week what he thought of it. So anyway. Yeah. But that's our top 10. And who knew we had a production team? And
who
Sergio.
knows we had a really good looking.
Yeah. You need to share a picture of Sergio. With me or something.
I'm telling you what, man. All the gay boys and all the girls are going to love this dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I would date him. If I was a single dude and gay, I would date that dude. Yeah. He's good looking. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Well, welcome aboard, Sergio and the production team.
Yeah.
And we'll have to get we got to get I9s together. Are they working free? Is this like a work study option or what?
I don't know. We're going to have a meeting about this.
We need I9s and identification.
I don't think Serge is paid. I think he's just doing this for the experience.
Okay. Well, I do it for the experience. So
that's what Tenet is all about. The experience.
It's the experience. And we got to make sure they're all legal and they have their, that none of them are illegal in the country. We got to make sure that we're Donald approved.
There you go.
So
really?
I9s.
We're not doing that.
Okay.
I think we probably need a new tagline, though.
Because remember, the Queen of Ice is from South Dakota.
I know, right? Yeah. I'm surprised she is in there. I bet she makes a top 10 list at some point.
She will. We'll make sure.
So do we need to change the tagline?
Top 10 or the Tenet podcast, and it would be
giving voice to the visual arts. We'll change it to tolerate the comedy, stay for the art, something like that.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
Most definitely tolerate the comedy because sometimes it's a miss.
All right.
All right.
You want to do this? Let's do this.
Let's do this. Let's do the art thing now. We've done the comedy thing.
Yeah.
And
if they stayed this long, they're staying for the art and they don't want to hear us ramble on anymore.
No,
all right.
Wait a minute. Is our guest still here? Maybe we should. Okay. He is.
He is. Thank God.
Present.
Let me do one more thing and we'll move on. All right.
Let's do it.
So before we get into this week's interview, we want to remind you that we are bringing back Art and Ag for its 4th year. Fleischer Family Farm, in conjunction with the Tenant Podcast, present the annual art event, Art and Ag, Saturday, September 20th from 10 to 4 at 2005 South Zephyr Court in the heart of the Southern Gables neighborhood in Lakewood, Colorado. Experience this magnificent setting, buy some farm fresh produce, check out beautiful art, and support local artists. We have a stellar lineup already, including Dan Drossman, Jim Rabiolo, Megan Morgan, Lisa Diamor Sanchez, David Chatfield, Thomas and Arts, Brittany Haas, and Braden Espinoza, along with our good friend that we dearly love. If you're listening, Joey Curlin.
Love Joey.
We do have a handful of space available for artists. If you would like to participate, you can email us or reach out via our socials. Stay tuned for more details. And in the meantime, check out Fleischer Family Farm, their website at FleischerFamilyFarm.com. All right, let's get to it. Let's get our hands in there. Let's get them dirty, Wes Brown.
Get dirty.
Yeah, let's talk some art. We are delighted to talk with our next guest. As usual, he's someone that has been on our radar for quite some time. And if you've been tapped into the art community here in Colorado, you've probably either know him or at least know of his work. You can check out what he does via his website, wittybanterism.com, and you can follow him on Instagram at wittybanterism. Welcome to the program, Max Kauffman.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, how you doing, man? It's good to see you.
I'm good. Your guys' commitment to the bit is legendary. I'm so stoked. I'm ready to laugh. I'm not going to talk about art at all.
Well, part of the thing is we got a bit levity, man. Levity. We need levity in the world. So I really want to know, because I watched the episode not last night, but the night before, South Park, episode 20, season 24, 26?
I think it's 27.
27, episode 1. What did you think, Max?
Oh, it was a delight. I particularly like the little throwback to Satan and Saddam, and there's a moment where he's kind of like, I've dated a guy like this before, and that Trump's voice, everyone is like doing Trump's voice, and like there's like the SNL guy that does his voice very well, but like just to have his voice be the like little bitch Saddam Hussein voice, and not even like it's just like it's going for the knees. It's not even like below the belt. It's just like, no, we're not even going to pretend like we know who you are or what you sound like. We're just going to use this.
Right. Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of like the icing on the cake amongst other things.
And Todd and I were talking about the PSA towards the end. I thought was really good too. And Todd thought it was brilliant. And I was like, I couldn't believe this stuff was on. That's where I was at. Like, holy crap, pushing the envelope on Comedy Central, maybe.
Yeah. And digging into Paramount after everything, and that they made a cool $1.5 billion. It's like just a couple extra meta layers of fuck you to a lot of things. So it was appreciated.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Todd, you made a good point about, the whole dig on Paramount.
Yeah. I mean, they're a sister company or they're owned by CBS. I don't know the logistics of that, but anyway, their settlement over the whole 60 Minutes debacle, like, come on, really?
Right.
So, I mean, I'm with Max. Like, it was the ultimate FU to everybody. Take the money and just blow it up, I have a huge appreciation for that, being somebody that has always had problems with authority. So, um, you know, kudos to those two guys, man.
Yeah.
They rocked it.
And the saviors of Casa Bonita, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, a Denver icon.
Yeah.
So, yeah, iconic
I know that
landmark.
Has been very pleased.
Is that right? Is the food better?
That's what I've heard.
Oh, nice. Because I've been there a number of times, and the entertainment's interesting. The diver, and the ambiance is kind of cool. The food originally I thought was okay, not the best Mexican food.
There was ambience when you went there.
Yeah, I mean it's got something, right? If you wait in line and get a ticket.
I think you bring the ambience.
Oh well, that could be.
Brown.
It's generous.
I'll tell you what. Next time, maybe we have to have a date at Casa Bonita.
Well, you have to. I feel like the old Casa Bonita was. You'd hear stories about how bad the food was, or that you kind of had to like. It's almost like a comedy club in the 80s. 2 drink minimum. You're like, yeah, you can see our waterfall and etc., but you have to have the worst tamale you've ever had in your life.
Right.
That's part of the deal. Them's the rules.
So my son-in-law, whose mother is Mexican, and they came up when they visited. We drove back to Denver with them, and they wanted to go to Casa Bonita, and I was like, I don't know, dude, but if this is old Casa Bonita, and I'm like, if that's what you want to do, I'll tolerate. We'll tolerate it. So we went, and I was at like, and his mom was there, and I'm like, so what did you think? It's like not the best Mexican food.
So again, that's generous.
Right. So, but anyway, I'm glad that I hear, and I see people. I got like a friend who's got the gold card, right? I haven't seen it. I just seen he put it. So they got like this gold card now, Casa Bonita gold card. Do you know anything about that?
No.
Oh my God. I'll have to look it up, but, yeah.
Is it based on the Trump gold card?
It might be kind of a nod to that. I don't know. That's a good question. I just seen, and I probably won't be able to find it, but let me see if I can find it while we're shooting the breeze. So, but anyway, if I can find it, I'll bring it up. So we'll talk about it. But
you deep dive. I'm going to ask serious questions because Max would like to talk this is a real podcast talking about art.
Oh,
a serious podcast. We all have microphones.
Let's get serious.
I don't have headphones, unfortunately, but this is pretty fucking serious.
That is.
Do you need ice yet?
No, I'm okay.
All right.
I think I got all the sweat out of my body.
Nice.
Sweet.
So what's the temperature there in your room, you think? We gave you Mars.
Oh, probably a balmy 97.
97.
Holy
beautiful.
crap.
No, I don't think it's that bad. This building actually holds heat in the winter very well and holds cool in the summer pretty well. It just has been, sometimes we open the door and then it just kind of resets the whole thing. So the AC's been on about 15 minutes. It'll get back to acceptable, but I'm just kind of pruning gently, so it's okay. All the water's out of my body now. Okay, it's okay. I'm fine.
It's like you have a sauna in your studio.
Yeah, you got to really work for it here. Like you said, it's serious business.
Yeah, and you know what? Before I ask my serious question to start off this thing, I'm going to give you one more chance. If you want to do this shirtless, we can all remove our shirts and do the rest of the interview shirtless. Like, no judgment here. We're all middle-aged or what have you. And so, we've embraced our bodies at this point.
You guys put it like that.
I know that actually kind of sounded a little weird, didn't it? I don't know.
I'll pop my top off.
Well, I was thinking, oh, here he goes. There it is.
Oh my God. Yes.
I'm going to stick to this chair.
Sergio's going to come running back into the room.
That's kind of my goal, but I didn't want to be too on the nose about it.
Right. Okay. Wes, you go now.
Oh, I have to take my top off.
You guys don't have to.
God, Jesus. Here we go. There we go. Jesus, God, I got the farmer tan going. And by the way, for all the people that can't see this, if you've seen the South Park episode and seen Trump get in bed with Satan, then you've seen my body.
Outstanding. So we did this, and as you were going down that path, I'm just thinking about what this is going to look like when your wife comes downstairs to check on you, and she's going to think the worst.
I know.
I think
I already have my pants off. That's what's really funny. So, because I usually do these without wearing pants, but now I'm almost completely naked.
I think that's kind of the official thing that you have to do with Zoom, right? Like, it only became interesting to everyone during the pandemic when you could not wear pants. Otherwise, it's just like, well, it's just
is my color out? Because I look like super white.
I was gonna say you're making me think of Panty Claus. It's a good look.
Panty Claus.
It's Santa Daddy is what it's.
Yeah, there we go. I got the dad bod and the Santa beard. Well, not the beard. I got a Santa
plus whatever
goatee.
light source is in your room, in your studio there. It's a cooler light source.
It's so a cool blue.
Like Max and I have like a warm light source.
You guys look like you just came back from the beach. You're all tan.
We've just been tanning. We've been hanging all day.
What the hell? What's going on in Colorado?
Drinking Coronas and
I'm tanning too, but it's called I'm tanning too, but it's called a farmer's tan. We got the t-shirt line. Oh my God.
Hey, the clock is ticking.
We haven't talked art yet. We don't know anything about
he
Max.
Had maybe an hour to 90 minutes of good conversation. So let's get going here.
Do it. You're the one who wanted to take the shirt off.
All right. So Max, to kick this off, like, first of all, your work is just absolutely fantastic. And like I said in the intro, I've been following you for a while. So it was really nice to connect with you and, kind of deep dive into what you've been doing for probably 15, 16 years, something like that. You've been a full-time artist?
14 years as of July, but probably 20 some years total of kicking the thing around.
Kicking the mule up the tree?
I think the first art show I ever had was like in 2004.
Okay.
A while. Enough. I can stop probably.
No, that's history, man. That's history. And, and you're incredibly prolific. Like, I look at all this work and I'm like, holy cow, how does one person create this much work? Take a moment and describe the kind of work that you do, the various aspects of it, and why you do the work that you do, the thought kind of behind why you have to create this work.
Okay. So I do a bunch of things too, because I kind of have a little bit of a ADD where I'd get really bored if I did. I'm really bad at like doing the same thing or doing something more than once to some degree. To some degree, I do the same thing over and over again. But to me, it's sort of like a kind of a mental map of a thing. It's like, you talk to people back in the day and you're like, what landmarks do you know in the city? Like if you were in the country, you were giving someone directions and they're like, go past Smith's Barn, turn past at the oak tree, drive till this. I like to think about things like that, where it's kind of an approximation or it's the general idea of something, but it's never like a concrete thing. So it's sort of like phasing in and out of time or place. And I think of what I do as kind of musical, where it's almost like I'm writing weird little like poems or songs or something. So there's to me, there's some like absurdity and there's storytelling, but it's very abstract. I'm really bad at like on the nose. So it's like real subtle things that could tell a story, but probably only to me. And I do it just, I have to. It's almost an addiction sometimes, but it's like the quietest my brain can be is when I'm making. So it's something, it's almost like a meditation. So it's something I enjoy and it's rewarding for me on that level. So yeah, I can't stop. It's a problem.
So you do sculpture, you do painting. What do you acrylic or oil or what's your specialty there?
I do So I learned painting with watercolor first. And so I really like to look at that lens. So I don't always use just watercolor. I use gouache a lot, and you can get very similar watercolor effects. You can get lots of like water bleeds and movements and gentle things and dry brush. And so I pretty heavily lean on gouache, but I love pen. I love, I'll use tiny bits of spray paint. I used to do clay a long time ago. I generally have like a couple set things I really like to do, but to me, it's really fun to learn new things and to try new things out. I love experimenting, and same thing. It's kind of in my nature to experiment. So it's really great to like learn a new thing. And it's almost like if I can get my voice across in this other thing, it's like a translation has happened. And that's really interesting to me. If I can make whatever material I'm doing still resonate as my work, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
absolutely. Gouache is one of those things that you don't hear a lot of people talking about or that they work with, right? And it seems like there's a love-hate thing with gouache and watercolor, which you have adopted into your work.
Yeah.
How long have you been working with watercolor and gouache?
I think the first time I was using watercolor and figuring it out was in college. So like probably 2003 or 4. And then like as I was getting a hang of it, for like probably at least 10 years. And then somewhere in 2011, 12, 13, I started using gouache a little more, and I was real heavy handed at first. And I like joke with my studio mates sometimes about just in general, when you're like a young artist, you're kind of, it's almost masturbatory where you're like, look what I can do, check this out. And it's just like, it's like a Jimi Hendrix style playing. So I feel like I would lean on gouache real hard, and then I learned how to like be gentler with it. And that's been like the past 12 or 13 years.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah. And I think that's pretty common with those mediums, right? Like it's easy to be heavy handed in the beginning, but eventually you learn the nuance and you learn how you use it, right? Because everybody uses it differently.
And watercolor especially, I think a reason a lot of people dislike watercolor is that it's really hard to control. And it's ultimately a medium that like it works best if you surrender control. Like if you let it do what it's going to do, the results can be astounding. But if you try and force it to be something it's not, it can look a little weird, or it can look heavy-handed real easily. So it's definitely a gentle touch. And like, again, like with my interest in exploration, like I'm just a vessel sometimes. So like having those things do their own thing is something that I strive for. And even sometimes when I'm making certain kinds of marks, it's trying to like replicate nature, where it's like, what texture would like 100 years of water dripping down the side of this house look like? Or what would I don't know, what would a tree look like 5,000 years later, fossilized? Or so I'm trying to replicate something that looks natural, or I'm attempting to, at least. That's how I believe it in my head.
Yeah, the one thing I've noticed about watercolor is like up here in South Dakota, we had two people I knew pretty well. Well, one I knew really well, the other one so everybody knows is John Crane, and he does wet on dry canvas, and so really controlled, But then Dick Du Bois was wet on wet. Yeah. And so really an abstract feeling, and he would paint like buffalo, and then the cloud of the dust behind would be it'd be like sunburst red, and it would just be really like abstract, where John is just like, holy buckets, the detail in his painting. Yeah. So it's interesting to the fact that you get both of those off the same medium,
Yeah. and I kind of straddle both of those lines too, because I love this like big, giant, flowy, organic things. And then I do have these like really tight rendered moments. And I like, Wes, that you mentioned canvas. I've been, for maybe a year or two now, I've been doing more stuff on canvas. I used to hate it. I couldn't do anything with it. I'd paint on panel, like a wood panel, for a long time, and I still do. But canvas, I love to paint like watercolor and gouache on that, because it's basically so challenging, and there's so much texture that you can have to do even less. Like it feels very close to painting on paper.
Right.
This show I did recently there was a lot of canvas with like I'm going too in the weeds on technical, but it was just the smallest bit of like a matte medium. So it's kind of like painting on a burlap sack. So like there's like a joy almost in like trying to get a perfect line where like there shouldn't be. And then there's also a joy in like, you could just pour a bucket of water on this thing and add pigment to it and leave it alone for a couple days. Even more so. And again, I'm getting too nerd tech on this, but so in Colorado, it's, as a water-based medium, it's you have to be really fast because it dries up. So you don't have as much time to do certain things. So you have to kind of commit a little more. And then I was in Indiana for the show, and it's 90% humidity. So like I got to paint differently, so I could like leave things alone, and they would take a couple days to dry, and like the pigment moves very differently as a result. So it was fun. It was like another challenge, but it was also like you could do certain things better because it had a lot longer time. Like you could take as long as you needed to make something if you whipped up paint and had the canvas wet and everything.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I don't think a lot of people think about that. The environment actually counts when you're working with watercolor and water-based mediums, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. And so what do you prefer? Do you have a preference of like environment when it comes to working?
I think I'm probably most used to like a desert or a dryer, but it was really rewarding, and I did a couple things I would never do with like a longer time. So I'm excited to try more of it. I'm really bad at like picking. I'm always kind of on the fence always. So I'm like, I like both of them. I don't know if there's a win there.
Sure. Yeah. There's no right answer, right? It's just whatever is going on in the moment. And that's what it sounds like what you do. You live in the moment.
I try. It's best. The best of my gumption, I try.
So reading a little bit about you, I understand you have an anthropology background. What the fuck is the word?
We just say
anthropology
in the
anthro background.
We just say anthro. It's
okay. So you got a background in anthro. A
little more street smart though.
So talk about that, and has that influenced what you do now?
Yeah, a lot. So my degree is ceramics and anthropology, and the anthro side comes in constantly. It's thinking of old civilizations, it's thinking of artifacts, it's thinking of things in our culture. Some of the first work I did that really impacted people is I would use cassette tapes a lot, and to me it was like one of the best icons of like a thing that's basically extinct, or that like if you talk to anyone even 10 years younger than me, if you say tape, they're like, oh, 3M or duct or
right.
So right. I love like it's almost like a little bit of like an idol worship, where it's like I love making these objects and having them kind of be sacred, or maybe imagining the importance of these things with with working on paper. You just surprised me, Todd.
Yeah, Todd is sharing his screen. And what was this piece called?
I don't know Todd could share like that. God damn.
Yeah.
I didn't have a name for this one because I made it in I made that in Walsenburg when I was living there. I did a show at this unbelievable little spot, the Museum of Friends. And it's a very small town. It's like 3,500 people. So the lead up to the show, I just had an easel and I would kind of paint in the window for a few weeks. And it was just, at one point I was like, I'll make something for the show. And then it was kind of just like, I'm just kind of painting to see if it brings people in. And, as many as 2 or 3 people came in, and that was, that was something. This image does encapsulate very well some of those other thoughts. I also have a really big love for pattern, and I love like the way we think about pattern and the way that pattern has fallacies in the human brain, even where it's like, you're kind of like, I did a show once. I'm rambling. I'm sorry. I did a show once called, The Reptilian Brain in Autumn. And it was, just kind of joking about the human capacity to knit things together. It's like something you do that's almost like a holdover, like an archaic. The best explanation I heard was like, if you think of like lizard brain or like frog brain as like the crappy, like 8-bit foundation that our more complicated brain is built upon, and there's glitches and quirks that were with that. And because even as simple as that, like the way a frog or a lizard's eyes are and they go to the side, they don't have a middle. So that the concept of the third eye, or the concept of like filling that gap, is a really primal thing that that everyone does. Like you see when there's people that love conspiracy theories, they're like, I'm the only one that connected these dots. I am the only person who figured this out. And you're like, yeah, you found a pattern. Your brain made a pattern. Like everyone does that. You thought it was important, so that's different. But so I love making patterns, and I love things that kind of look like textiles, or they look like cloth. And so this was just taking these little cassette tapes and just putting them in a little row and like making it kind of appear as like a quilt.
So did you have a bunch of tapes then laid out, and then you painted on them and then laid the paper over the top and pressed them like a press?
Just one, and then I would just switch it each time. And I'm also a real, maybe this is from anthropology, but I'm a real sucker for analog. So like that's a much smarter way to have done it. But I like literally like painted a tape and pushed it on there and then cleaned it and then painted another one. I think there's another one that I didn't post where I tried to do one color at a time, and I got so far off track quickly. Like it just like started going real hard to the left or right. But I like that as well, because it's kind of it's an imprint, and it's kind of an imperfect thing, or it's this like replica or echo or ghost of a thing. And I think that's probably a little in the world of anthropology too. Maybe I'm being too generous. I'm being too nice to myself. I'll stop.
No, I think everything that you said was valid. And I actually really love this on multiple levels. I grew up listening to cassette tapes, right?
Same.
I love the fact that, and this is where my brain goes, I love the fact that you're looking this as a quilt, and you have pattern going on. But I also see this, I think of the cassette tape as kind of the bridge between analog and digital, right?
Oh, wow. I never thought of that. That's amazing. Yeah, 100%. Wow. Yeah. There's something to it that it's kind of like, it's a crude thing, but it's also like advancing towards these greater things. Like you think about like the Beatles and like the things they were doing with 4 tracks, where they're like, oh, we only have 4 tracks. We'll just like record 15 separate things and then mesh all of them together, or like the way early rappers would take an 808 and just like build beats with like hundreds of little pieces. And I grew up like probably everyone else did, like with Legos and stuff like that. So I love to build something out of these really small things. And that idea of multiples there becomes really pleasing to me, because it's something that maybe to some people feels like order, but it also can feel like a concept of like infinity or just like endless time. And it's again, it kind of jostles between these things where it's like, here's chaos, but in pattern form.
But the other thing that I see in looking at this, where my brain goes and that I like about it, is not only that analog digital connection, but the shape that is made from these cassettes looks like the very beginnings of a formation, or the very crude picture of a robot's head, right?
Yes.
Because you got the two eyes, you got the bottom part that looks like a mouth, and yeah. So this works on multiple levels, man. Like I think it's fun, and I love the thought behind it.
Thank you so much.
So
go ahead.
Did you incorporate digital art or do you continue to do that, or did you used to incorporate digital art in your artwork?
Almost never.
Okay.
I think I said I was analog friendly before I'd even dare to call myself a Luddite.
Okay.
I do some things with digital, maybe like in more like a post-production where I'm like cleaning up photos or getting something ready to print, or if I'm doing illustration, I'll tighten it up. But I'm still doing that on paper and then just scanning it or getting it photographed. And even like when I do mock-ups for murals, I'll just have these little paintings, and it's like that's easier for me or faster for me than trying to go into use Illustrator or something and build out or use Procreate. It would probably save me so much time. But like, again, there's something to this, that having those limitations is fun for me. Like I like finding like tricks for myself. Just as you guys had mentioned, that it feels fun. I'm always trying to like keep myself in the headspace of fun. So that way it kind of comes out organically and feels free, versus like something that is a big turnoff for me for art I don't like is if it feels too technical or soulless, or if it just feels like it's just like, oh, you really painted this thing exactly as it happened. Like, how fucking boring. And so I like to like have these little limitations or kind of like rules almost. And then it's like me working within those channels results in me still feeling like it's play. Especially if I'm doing like commissions and stuff like that, because it's easy to think, oh, I'm doing work. This is serious. I'm going to fuck up. This is so important. And if I can like trick my brain into be like, hey buddy, you're just having a good time. Like shooting the breeze, no problem. It turns out better to me.
Right.
So in order to do the work that you do, part of that is, and why digital doesn't necessarily resonate with you, is that I'm going to guess that you enjoy that human experience of having a tactile thing, process, something that does have the potential to, actually get kind of fucked up, and then figuring out where you're going from there, right?
Yes, 100%. And I'll try and not lean on musical analogies too much, but I like that idea of like jazz, where it's you kind of know where you want to go, but you don't know how you're going to get there, and that sometimes mistakes actually lead to better discoveries versus if you're like, to me, the same feeling of soullessness comes across if someone's like, here's what I'm going to do to this painting. Cyan background, light purple, some clouds, this character. I'm like, I would hate it. Like, I have to have some improvisation, or I have to like have a problem I have to solve. It's almost, I have to have a problem I have to solve. And like, it's not, for whatever reason, my brain's like, can't be like, just make a painting and finish. It's like, no, set it up this way and do this and try and have an accident, and then you'll paint better. And
the thing that makes things beautiful are not the perfections, it's the imperfections. I've always said this. Yeah. It's imperfection that makes something unique and beautiful, whether it's people, a piece of art, whatever it is, nature itself, right? Like, there's imperfections in nature too. And that's what people gravitate to, or at least us as a species, I think.
Yeah. And even that, like, sometimes it feels like it's vulnerable. Like, as I was saying earlier, like, sometimes when you're young and you're an artist, you're cocky and you're like, check this out. I'm going to blow your mind. Check out this line. It's so straight. And it's like, yeah, anyone can draw a straight line. Like, I love the idea of human failing, or like these mistakes happening. Like, a huge, huge influence as I was kind of first developing my style was the Mission School. All these Bay Area artists like Barry McGee, Thomas Campbell, especially Margaret Kilgallen, and like them talking about the error of the human hand and the acceptance of that. And like, to me, it's so real versus like, if you're like, I don't know, even like using tape to me sometimes feels like cheating or something, where I'm like, that's too straight of a line. Check this out. This is how a idiot would draw a line. So, I haven't seen anything. I'll screw all this up.
Well, I mean, I think even like the Japanese art of kintsugi, right, where you got a broken piece of pottery and you put it back together, and you use gold, and it looks so much more beautiful than its original state, right?
No, and that concept is something that's resonated with me for a long time, as well as like the concept of wabi sabi. And I definitely have had moments where I make work and it's so complicated. I think when I was like 20 years old, literally one of my goals was like, I want someone to have a seizure. I want them to be so lost in this thing that their circuits fry. And now that I'm older, I'm like, can I like tell a story with like 3 bad lines and you still know what it is? And it's that's kind of the fun part of getting older. Like, you're like, I don't have to try this hard. I don't have to try it all. Like, whatever. I'm going to be true to myself.
I think even like in photography back in the day, we were trying to get the perfect image where we would correct, like the sharpest image or camera, and trying to get, Photoshop all the imperfections out. I've kind of gone beyond that. I'm like, that doesn't even interest me anymore. Yeah. Like, I like the imperfections almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know Todd kind of mentioned that earlier, same principle, but.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good analogy, man. Photography has changed the world so much, and it's changed as an art form. And, going back to the whole film thing, when you didn't have that control, there's something to be said for that. Right.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you just have to, and I find myself looking at like iconic photographs from iconic photographers of the 20th century. Right. And I'll look at it and think, well, sometimes I'll go, I wouldn't have done that way, or I don't like that particular element. And then I like catch myself and I go, no, that's not right, because that was that person's vision. And there's something to be said for the imperfection, or not having control of a certain element that they obviously just had to roll with. Right.
Yeah. Especially too, that, I figure a lot of these, and because of the tech at the time, that it was, you can only get one shot, or you only get a few shots. Like, if it was as something was unfolding, or like, I always think of like one of the photographs that's burned into my brain is the National Geographic, the woman from like, I think Serbia or Bosnia, and the haunting eyes. And it's like, unless this person had went out and gone hunting for months to like find people that were interesting and got this person to take a photo on whatever day, like it wouldn't even happen. So there's like a history and a story to it too, where it's like, this happened because of X, Y, and Z. It's kind of like, it wouldn't be interesting if you're like, oh, I just had a photo shoot to do this, or I did it just in the terms of art. Like I know that, a photo shoot serves a purpose for things,
right?
Serious art, but as we're talking about nonsense. No.
So take a moment and talk about where you're originally from.
Okay. So I was born in Chicago and moved to South Bend, Indiana at about 8 years old. And I kind of grew up in the woods as a kid. I just like had acres and acres of woods behind our house, and we were kind of out from the city. So I feel like as a kid, I didn't even know how to talk to people. I just like, I had like one friend and we'd walk around in the woods together and look for snakes and frogs and shit, make up fake Civil War battles. And like, then in like middle school, I was like, oh, I got to learn how to be a human. And so I had that. And then like very quickly after the beginning of high school, I got into skateboarding, and skateboarding was like this secret code, like a way to like get out of a small place, but also like a way to explore an urban environment and like look at things in different ways. So like that is a little bit of like where that back and forth comes from. Cause I like would love to like take what the kids call these days forest baths, but I would also like explore the city, and like you get this thing. I'm sure you guys as photographers get this too, where like, from skateboarding and from art and from having that kind of eye, you see weird things, and you see things that like wouldn't matter to 90% of the population, maybe even 99%. And that you see these things and that they become beautiful to you. Like they're like these little secrets, like it's like a reward for paying attention. And like, I love that in art, where like you can see, oh, like here's this pretty picture. But then if you look closely, you're like, oh shit, there's some really dark stuff. And if you look closer, you're like, oh shit, they're talking about this stuff. And like that it's like a reward for paying attention kind of. And it's like rewarding a niche audience. And my career is like that sometimes. I feel dumb calling it a career, but I'd always say to other artists and peers that I'm like an indie band. Like I'm 9 out of 10 people don't see what I do or even acknowledge it, but like the 10th person will like be a fan for a decade or more. And it's something that used to be frustrating to me. And then eventually I was like, I don't care. Like it's even kind of funny for me, where it just like, it doesn't register with people. It's not even that people don't like it. It's just that like, it doesn't catch people's attention sometimes because people aren't paying attention. So like, it's again, like for those people that give a shit and that have patience and look around at the world, it's something for them, and it's something to appreciate and get lost in. And that's like that's what makes me happy. Like if I love walking around a city and like I would never, I mean, that's not true. I'm contradicting myself on the fly here, but like I used to do murals as a really big part of my image making, or as my money making, or whatever you want to call it. And so like when I was really into it, like the funnest thing would be to go to a city and just walk around and find things and see things in the wild, as it were. And like, to me, like in these modern times, there's stuff where there's There's like mural tours where someone greets you at some corner in Rhino and they're like, all right, gang, we're going to see the best art in Denver today. And it starts with this and then this. And I'm like, I would shoot myself. Like it's like a cheat code. And like, if you like talking about memories again, like one of the early times where I was in New York, there was a gallery, Black Book, that I worked with, and they they were showing at a fair. And so I got to go out and they flew me out, and I had time to walk around, and the High Line Canal had just been built, or the High Line, whatever, the kind of like elevated thing that goes through like Manhattan below Chelsea. And I walked this thing, and there's a tag. There's these guys that were famous in the 80s, Revs and Cost. And if you look up Revs Cost, there's one building where like literally in just the earliest times, these guys got up and painted on a giant, like 30-story fucking building, and it's still there. And like walking down this thing, not knowing it was there, and turning and seeing like, oh, this is like, it's like to me at that time, it was like seeing the Parthenon and not knowing the Parthenon was down the street, or like walking around Egypt and turning a corner and be like, oh, that's where those pyramids are. So those kind of moments I really like. And I think I try and maybe share those moments a little bit sometimes in the work.
Yeah, we always say that you find your people, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter that most people don't get it, that somebody will glom onto it and they'll be on the ride for life, or a good portion of your life, right?
Yeah.
At what point did you have like an epiphany where you're just like, I don't care. Like, I'm just going to make the work that I want to make. And if people like it, they like it. And if people don't, that's fine too. Like, I just, it's no big deal.
I don't know. I think early on, I sort of had these little instincts, or I'd see certain people, if they could like coalesce their style or like find a particular or approachable voice and how that benefited them. And so I'd have these thoughts where I was like, oh, if that was a little more straightforward, this wouldn't be nearly as complicated or difficult to get things. But it was just over years of like seeing how people look at art and seeing the ways people can fall in love with things. And like, as I think at some point I'm like 43, and I think at some point right around 40, I just like lost a lot of internal anxiety that I had, where it wasn't even like that I didn't care if anyone got it or not. I just didn't care if anyone got anything I did. Like, I just like didn't have to put up that facade. And I think that, I don't know, I think some people like are really nervous about like them being misconstrued or really controlling the narrative, and for me, I like that universality of that, like someone could see something and it could be a million different things to them. And that is like the power of art going beyond you, that they see things and they're writing their own stories and it's becoming important to them on this whole other level, versus if you're like, this painting is about sorrow and you will look at it and cry and you will feel sad. And those are the fucking rules. I would just be like, oh my God, I'd hate myself.
You taste the gunmetal in your mouth.
Yeah.
Like,
put me out of my misery.
Right.
It sucks.
That's beautiful, man. I have a huge appreciation that is your attitude towards it. And I think as a culture, as a society, if we did that more, we'd be in a much better place, right?
Yeah. And not to say that it isn't terrifying. It's like continuously like sticking your neck out and not knowing what's going to happen almost. And same thing is even just like an ethos of life. I feel like anytime I was like, my career's hit a stall, I better do this, or like, it's time to do some marketing, like those kind of things almost like wouldn't benefit me. Like the more I, in my mind, the more I surrender, the better it is for me. It's kind of that, it's real fucking hokey and hippie, but it's kind of the like, the more I allow the universe to unfold and take care of me, the better it goes. And that sounds insane to say. It sounds so privileged, but it almost like I just learned over and over again that if I was like, I need to sell 10 paintings at this show or we're going to be in trouble. It's like, you're just constantly disappointed, or you're constantly like not getting what you want, and like having lower expectations or not even having expectations. Just, it felt better. It was less hard on my body and my soul. You know, it was like, it was kind of giving up, but not in a,
You're just surrendering,
way.
Not giving up, but just surrendering.
Yeah.
Well, less stress. So that's
exactly
freeing, right? You know, anytime you put like lots of pressure on yourself, that induces stress, which probably interferes with your creativity. You know, it all interconnected, right?
And like I talked about earlier, like I had moments when I was starting, and like the first few years that I was doing buildings, I had a lot of commissions, because it was sort of like people would want the childhood home they grew up in. They want grandma's house. They want, you know, a place that was special. And I'd freak out because I was like, shit, this person paid me and I haven't even started yet. I could screw this up. And I'd psych myself out. And so it was kind of, just like a response that it was like, it's easier to not sweat this stuff because it's just going to be easier on me. And it was also seeing, I had a real good buddy that we moved to Denver at the same time. And he was a musician, and he was really, really good. And he was like scared to perform, and he was scared to put stuff out. He was so worried about what people would think. And like, I saw it almost affect his health. Like at one point it was like, holy shit, dude. Like, I think you just gave yourself an ulcer from stress. Like, you caught cancer. No, sorry. That's insensitive. But like, to see that, I've always had anxiety, but to see that anxiety could literally like cross over and affect your physical health was something I was very aware of. And I was just like, oh man, the less I can do this, the better.
Right.
I mean, we have certain control in our lives, right? But there's so much that we don't have control over. And if you're able to get in the mindset of just rolling with it a little bit more, right? I think you're always better.
Yeah.
Your mental will be better. Your physical will be better. And just realize that, you know, I mean, something I say constantly these days is like, I'm not going to sweat this shit because we're all just fucking, you know, hanging out on this big rock, you know, flying through the universe. Like none of this, you know, truly, I believe in doing good work, like doing the best you possibly can. And that's all you can do. You're the only person you're competing with is yourself.
Yes.
So, right. So don't get hung up on what other people are doing or jealous or compare yourself to other people. Just if you just focus in on what you do and trying to be better and whatever that is, you'll be in such a better place.
Yeah. And I think even like, I feel like the more I've been able to do that and have this very true, vulnerable thing that I put out into the world, I feel like, again, when people connect with that, I used to always talk shit about, you know, we all have musicians we love. And like, you see when a first album comes out and it's just like, it's like 0 to 60. It's like, this thing was the fucking fire is coming up from the Phoenix. This is a brand new thing. Or I guess Phoenix is a bad analogy there, but it's like, it's creating fire for the first time. Like you feel this energy, like the first Fugazi album, the first Talking Heads album, you're like, holy shit, what is this thing? And you see, not with those bands, but you see certain bands that psych themselves out and they're like, well, we got to do what the fans want. And like, to me, that's death. Like if you're doing what other people want, you're not fucking making art anymore. You're just giving people what they want. And I see in the art, in every creative world, there's people that just do the fucking lowest common denominator. They do stuff that's easy. They do stuff that they know exactly what it'll do. And it's very marketable, I guess, or it's very safe. And like, to me, like having a thing that's true and unique and vulnerable and damaged is like, that speaks to a deeper truth in it. And again, if that's only getting a few people on my side, I could care less. Like those people saw me or saw my work for in that thing and embraced it, not because it was like, oh, you did this. Oh, this was this. Oh, you followed this formula exactly from your first album. And yeah.
Right.
And that's the highest compliment when it resonates with someone else, another human being, right?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't get any better than that.
And even if it's one person, that's great. There's things I've done. I've had a couple like weird little moments with paintings where like the strangest things would happen. And it was so beyond what I even thought could happen. And I feel like I'm rambling real hard, but two quick stories.
Yeah.
The first one, when I first moved to Denver, I would do lots of kind of these like fantasy animals and environments with like animals and buildings. And it was kind of this idea of like civilization ending and animals coming back. And I sold a painting in this real early on stage, and this woman bought it, and she pulled me aside or kind of like, you know, as I went to her house to drop it off, she was like, do you know why I bought this? And I was like, no, why? And she was like, points to there. It was like a deer creature and there was kind of a lake behind it. And she's like, that's Walden's Pond. My dad loved Thoreau. This is about Thoreau. And I was so shocked that I was like, I would never, I feel like it'd be insulting to say otherwise. Like, again, she had totally created that story, and it was so true to her that it then trickled back to me where I was like, holy shit. I just was like, this deer is kind of cool. And I drew it a couple times, and there's a lake. It's awesome. And she was like, no, this is about my dad and I miss him and I'm buying this painting. And it's just like, fuck. And another version of that was, there was a show I curated at a literate gallery, which became Gildar Gallery later. And the first show there was about where the wild things are. And it was right when the movie came out, and I'd actually had been in LA looking at stuff, and I saw a really like slick, really, really illustration heavy, real straightforward show that was inspired by the movie. And it was just, it was basic, and it was just like, you guys like went one note into this. And I had this show I put together that was like all of these completely random and very strange people or very strange styles that were just kind of came together that celebrated this thing, however they wanted to, like no expectations, no rules, no, this is how you make work for this show. And the show was fun. And I made two really small paintings that kind of looked like, so in the movie, they have this weird moment where there's like a mountain and it kind of looks like a weird set design. It kind of looks like it's made out of Lincoln logs. And I did a really weird abstracted version of that and made this diptych. And someone came into South Broadway and bought one. And they're like, I'm going to buy this for my wife. She fucking loves Where the Wild Things Are. I'm going to surprise her. And then maybe a month later, someone else comes in and they buy a piece and they're like, I'm going to give this to someone that's going to freak out. And on fucking Christmas, they give these paintings to each other and didn't know that the other, I mean, it was just like, I couldn't even make this up. Like I'm getting chills talking about it. It's so fucking surreal. So you can see how far outside of yourself it can go. And it's again, I love it. It's like the sky's the limit. Who knows?
Right.
Right. There was a story once, there's a local artist, Ravi Zupa, who's a pretty big deal. And he made art for Pearl Jam. And I can't remember what the image was, but he made art for Pearl Jam, and it was an assignment, and they played in South America. I think they played in Brazil. And somehow this poster like perfectly captured some moment in time and some revolution that was going on. And suddenly this Pearl Jam poster became the iconic image that all these people were using in this protest they had. So again, it's like, it just got so far away from this thing. And it's just like, it's so powerful. It's like, I don't even have words to really describe it, how powerful it is.
Right.
Those are two really pretty phenomenal stories.
I got more. No, I don't.
I think you do.
I'm out. I do the stories.
I want to come kind of back at the beginning of this whole part of this conversation and talk about like what was the thought about doing work that dealt with like the apocalypse or the ending of us as a species or civilization. And the reason I'm asking this, because I can be pretty fatalistic in my attitude towards where we're at, especially, and I think probably a lot of people can resonate with that. But why were you doing work like that? And have you moved on from that place?
All right. I'll try and not be too obnoxiously long-winded in this one, but I think of it as a little bit of an anthropology thing. In addition to loving the past, I was raised, my dad got me into sci-fi. I was reading Asimov, read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and the subsequent books. So I love this idea of future, and the future that could be either utopian or dystopian. And I think these days it goes generally more towards utopian in my visions, but the dystopian idea was just really fun to me. And there was this idea of almost like a future primitive thing that I was doing for a really long time. And when I was in that style, and it was kind of this idea of like, as I was trying to make these buildings, it was imagining like, all right, if there was an apocalypse, if there was like some shit that went down, you don't have building materials. You don't have a Home Depot. Can't go to Menards. Can't save big money. You got to go root around and find stuff. And you're like, all right, I found 3 fences, 20 bricks, 5 logs. We're going to build a house. It's going to be an honest house. And so it was just like a headspace to get into. And it was a way to like show these imperfections and a way to kind of have a little bit of an explanation for them. And it was fun for me to think about those things and kind of like build those things and try and see if it could like match up in my head what would come out on paper.
All right.
Shit was dark then. It was like one of the first year or two of making art full time. And I was in Oakland, and I was like so in over my head. And I was like, 31 or 32 years old. And I went from being in Denver and had, kind of started again, whatever my career, sorry, I'm being awkward here. I'd started kind of like getting attention and being able to like make a living from this in Denver. And then going to Oakland, it was like, oh shit. Like at the time, and this was like 2012, I was kind of like, I don't want to say I was a big fish in a small pond, but I had done a few things in Denver and had some successes. And I was like, all right, this is pretty good. And then I went to Oakland, and like for a year, every single day I'd learn about some artist that had a 40-year career, or every day I'd learn about some other artist I'd never heard of that had 5 museum shows. So it was just like seeing the rest of the world and realizing a little bit like, oh shit, I gotta do a little better or work a little harder to compete with this. So there was a little bit of fear, but it was like kind of like, all right, I'll step up a bit. And so it was kind of a fun way to like not be intimidated and freaked out, because you're like in Denver, even I don't know now, but like at that time in Denver, amongst my peers, there were like, you know, maybe 4 people that could make a living that were in their 30s and making art. And then going to the Bay, there's 5,000, you know, it's endless, and there's endless fields of it and endless different art scenes there. So it was, you know, it's kind of getting thrown in the fire and reacting to that.
And what was the catalyst for you to say, I'm gonna jump out of this pond and go see what the ocean looks like?
I think some of this idea of the mission school and seeing that, you know, at one point in time, San Francisco was the epicenter of the art world in a way that LA is now, in a way that New York always was. But it was this place where there were some artists who were so good that they never had to show outside of San Francisco. They were globally known just being in this city and having that support. And so I kind of seeing mission school and seeing that work and responding to it, and also growing up skateboarding, and like in the 90s, there were still people that, you know, moved to San Francisco with $100 and a briefcase and jumped on a Greyhound and like made it work. And I moved there, and I was like, this is where my career is going to get serious. And and I went to a gallery opening, like maybe in the first week or so, and there was a guy I had known. He had a gallery, and I was like, hey, it's me. We're meeting in person. And he's like, welcome to San Francisco. It will take you about a month to realize that you should have moved to LA. And I was like, oh, and again, not disparaging on any place, but I built up this idea in my head that it was like, well, if I go there, that's where I'm going to become a professional artist and make professional work and really serious. And it, you know, I really believed that. And I will say I got like exponentially more attention being there than being in Denver, but there was also a cost, and it was that I just worked and I didn't have a life. I even like was like, I'm not going to have a social life for a while if I want this to be good enough. And like when I moved back to Colorado, I was like, oh shit, I lost. I'm going back to Colorado. And then after a while, I was like, well, I wanted to know what a weekend was. For 4 years, I didn't have a weekend. And it was like balance, having that balance. And then when I lived in Walsenburg for a while, I was like, holy shit, what does 2 weeks off feel like? What does a month feel like? And I hadn't had that since I was, you know, 18 years old. I didn't even know what that was. So I reacted really badly to it. And then eventually I was like, oh my God, I needed to be grounded and to like have a place and fucking relax. I'm bad at relaxing sometimes.
You've traveled around a lot. I think I threw out this kind of description the other day, but it sounds like you're a bit of an art nomad. Like you've dipped your toe in the pool of a lot of different places. Why is that? Has it been good? And what did that teach you besides your San Francisco experience?
I would say I dipped my beak first off, just to throw a needless bird pun in there. But
bird metaphor.
It was this relentlessness of wanting to explore that I had. And so some of it was almost like I kind of fucking had to. And some of it was really not smart, but it was just like I had this curiosity and I wanted to see other places. And a lot of it, and a lot of how I was able to build to make a living early on was like from music and seeing a ton of music when I was in my 20s and teens. And I guess I still see a lot of music, but there were certain kind of hippie bands I would chase across the country. And there was these great moments where like you'd see someone and you'd hunt out with them in Arizona, and you'd hunt out with them in Chicago, you'd hunt out with them in Colorado, and they're like, hey man, we've never actually even hung out in my town. And they'd be like, hey, if you ever want to come to San Francisco, I got a couch for you. So it was a way to do that and have it be kind of work related. So I could go to a place and explore and like find contacts and find galleries or meet with people that I thought I could work with, and being able to do that in a bunch of places. And so instead of having to like spend money on a hotel and not know the lay of the land, someone will be like, let me take you to the best whatever in town, or go wander this neighborhood. You'll have fun. So I was able to like learn about these places and see, you know, how these different scenes existed and worked, and what people might like and might not like, or what people respond to. And it was just a way to find that. And it also was, it helped my career in the sense that it, you know, it looks good on paper to be like, oh, I did something here, and then I did something here. And kind of like a band, when I was really tight with this, like 10 or 11 years ago, I'd like do a show in Chicago and be like, hey, I'll be back in 6 months. Then I'd go to Denver and I'd be like, hey, I'll be back in a little. Then I'd go to the Bay. And then each time I could come back, I'd be like, oh, sorry, you missed me. We can do this job in 6 months. And I'd have work waiting for me. So I could go to a place and have a couple things and be like, if you miss this, you'll catch me next year. And one of the things that's really tough in Denver, it's the art scene here is so amazing now, and it is so big, but it's an island, and there's not a lot of things. There's not a lot of other scenes around it, in a sense. If you're in the Midwest, there's like major cities every 20 miles. Like there's all these different places. On the West Coast, it's like LA, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle. And there's all these markets that are connected in some way. And Denver and the surrounding areas have again, come leaps and bounds. Like there's a museum in Salt Lake City that is like world-class, the UMOCA, and like everything in New Mexico like looks so impressive. Like the way art is done there, I don't know, it like feels magical. And so there's essentially, it looks better to like show in different places. And sometimes because Denver or other places could be construed as an island, you see this vacuum where there's people maybe not aware of what people are doing in other areas, but also they're only showing in this one regional area. And I remember a gallerist saying to me once, like one of the first times I kind of started working with the gallery and they were representing me, they're like, well, you can only do a show a year. And I was like, what's that? Like, I want to do shows all the time. And they're like, well, think of music. If you're a band and you're a hometown hero and you play a show every month, it's not that people don't care, but they can always miss it because there's no consequences. They're like, I'll just catch the next one. You guys are playing in a month, right? So if you have 5 shows in Denver in a year, it's like limited success because you're like getting the same people, or people are like, oh, you're going to do one in a couple months. I'll see that one. And at one point, like I didn't show, I think I had like a 10-year gap of showing in Denver. And I was like, I'm not going to be back for a while. This is the only time I can do this. And then it creates some scarcity, and it feels a little more important that you have to go to this thing because you're going to miss it. Blink and you miss it. So it's again, it's kind of like a little psychological trick, but it just looks better if you're like, I did this and sorry, I didn't have time. I have to go do this thing now. And the reality is it's just taking on tons of work, but it comes across as something, and then eventually it does start yielding benefits, because then you have multiple markets that you're building and not just one place.
Yeah. Scarcity does drive that kind of idea of like, I need to see him,
Yeah.
So I totally get that.
Just like a band.
Sorry. Yeah.
So my question for you though, beyond the fact of what place and traveling has done for your art career, talk to us about how it plays into the actual work itself, what that experience does.
I think it, like, on a basic level, it just kind of creates more moments for me to have these magical experiences and find these strange things in the wild and get influenced by stuff. And I take lots and lots and lots of photographs when I'm walking around, and sometimes it's stuff that might not matter for 5 or 6 years, and then I'll like look at something and be like, oh shit, it's like a hoarding thing. I'm like, oh, this image could work great for this, or this color is something I couldn't have thought of on my own. And it allows kind of almost more improvisational thoughts, or those like happy accidents. Like I when I came back from South Bend to Denver, I took kind of this meandering route. I have a friend who lives in Joplin, Missouri now, and it's entertaining to visit him in Joplin because it's a strange place, and it's also it's just a part of the country that I've never been in before. So driving from there, I drove to Santa Fe, and I saw this group, the Punch Brothers, there. And so my route was going to have to either be Kansas or a bunch of Texas. And I was like, I enjoy smoking. And Kansas literally at one point had a lawsuit filed against it because they were profiling Colorado drivers so hard and just making money off of anyone that was scared. So I was like, I'm going to drive through Oklahoma, and I'm going to like look on a map and see, I go this road to this road and this road, and take that off path. And it was fucking great. I saw another part of the country I'd never seen before. There's like grasslands in parts of Oklahoma where you could get a glimpse of like what the plains were when the natives were around before it was killed off with the Dust Bowl, like when it was over farmed. So you see these beautiful, lush areas. And then again, the second I got to the Panhandle, it started dropping off, and I did have to drive through Texas for maybe 30 miles. And even just the transition from Oklahoma to Texas was like, oh my God, this place has been fucking picked clean. There was just like barren fields and like loose wheat blowing, and there was just nothing. And I was just like, oh, I can't wait to get out of this. And then I drive into New Mexico, and even like at the edge of New Mexico, and you come in at this place, I think it's called Carlton, or it's not called Calvin. It's a town at the border. But the second you got into New Mexico, it was like glowing seafoam green from all the plants, and like you see mountains again, and it was just like, it was so stinking beautiful. And if I just drove across Nebraska, that would have been the fastest way, but it's boring. And there's some fun parts, and I'm not bashing Nebraska. I got no hate for Nebraska, but it's finding those happy accidents and being like, well, for my sanity, instead of driving 15 hours straight, I'm going to take this leisurely route. Like it's like those stupid Family Circus cartoons where you see like where Billy goes, and it's just these like useless trails and dead ends. And like, that's like how my brain works. It's like, that's its optimal processing. So I'm just like, I shouldn't make a plan. I'm going to screw up the plan anyways.
I think even like doing vacations like that, just being spontaneous is
Yes.
so much more fun.
Yes.
And you got to see stuff that you wouldn't have never got to see, right?
Yeah. And I had a moment, and there have been times in my life where like everything was planned to a T and everything was inexact. And there was a moment where I like went on a vacation with my little brother, and he has a very real job. And we had this moment where we're like, can we just like not plan? I don't want to like think on this vacation. Like it would bum me out if I'm like, here's our itinerary and this is what we're doing. And it was so fun. It was like being a kid again. We're like, we have all the time in the world. We're going to just walk till we find things. And like, especially in other countries, like, or in other, places you haven't been, like, you find these great places when you're looking like that you would never, have even expected it.
Right.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. I have a total appreciation for that in your sense of adventure. And that's what we lack in modern day society, I think, is that lack of adventure. I think there's that comedian, Jimmy Carr, I think is his name.
I think I've heard of him.
Yeah. I like him. I've become a lot more fond of his comedy, not because of he's funny, but he comes from a very logical place. Like everything is backed up like with a fact, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to argue with it, but he's like, the one clip that I've seen that really resonated with me is like, George Orwell was completely wrong. It's not that we're going to be taken over our lives by this authoritarian thing. We're going to give it away for cheap dopamine.
Yeah.
Our phones and our computers and technologies, like we're ruining generations of kids because they no longer, like we got to go out and play in the woods and run around and have adventures. Instead, we've become so fearful of a society that, we don't let those kids do any of that anymore. Instead, we plop them down in front of some kind of device and they can go anywhere. We don't, most people don't know what their kids are doing or what they're viewing on the internet. It's a much more dangerous place than at the actual real world, right?
100%.
And it actually like totally takes away from the human experience by being disconnected.
And it's and it's even like it becomes dangerous sometimes. I remember a really fascinating like This American Life where they talked about there was this little town, I can't remember where it was, but that there was a kid and he and his buddies on Instagram were like, we're a gang. We're the GR Smiths. And it was just like them having fun and goofing around. And it was nothing real. And then all of a sudden, like someone from one town over was like, the GW Smiths have this turf? Fuck that. This is the Baseheads turf. I'm just making up names. Sure. And again, it was like this perception thing. And this happens in art all the fucking time where like people see something and like, on paper, it's one thing. And when you actually see it in person, it's a completely different thing. So like this ended up that these kids got killed because these other kids that didn't know the context went and like was like, these guys are our enemies and fought them like they were their enemies. And they were just like scared kids that were like, what the fuck? We just like did this for goofs. And it was like taken out of context. And I think the internet, like you lose so much context that, it's way safer in the real world.
Yeah. And being social is a totally different thing digitally than it is in real life. And God, like growing up when Todd and I did, or especially when I did in the 70s, shit, you were gone in the summer. You weren't home until freaking dark, Totally. Yeah. So
I read somewhere in one of your interviews where you actually were asked about advice to artists. And one of those things that you said is that, you should get out and about. You should socialize. You should go see, art exhibitions. Talk a little bit more about that, if you will.
Yeah. So kind of connected to that thing, there was a real weird moment. So same thing with having like kind of half of my life digital and half analog. The first half of me making and showing art was pre-Instagram. So it was these very old rules where like when I graduated college, I was told, if you don't send slides to a place, they're going to fucking laugh you out of town. They're going to put you on a burn list. And like that if you wanted to do certain kinds of work, you had to like do them in these ways and you had to, really engage with people. And then Instagram comes around and you'd see you'd see people's like careers go from 0 to 60 so fast. And you'd see sometimes that these people get lost in it. Sometimes, just like musicians, like sometimes there's a spark and those people keep doing great stuff for all eternity, but you'd see them burn out really fast because they're like overwhelmed with all of these things happening. And another scary part of that to me in modern terms is I used to joke with this about a bunch of friends. There's people that like only live on the internet. Like there's people that don't go out into the world. And with artists, especially, there's people that like have groups of friends that are only on the internet. They don't have friends in real life, or not to say they don't have friends in real life, but they like maybe don't have friends in their town they're in. They're like, oh, you internet fans that I love are my only people. And it's just like, it's a really dangerous slope. And you see people get lost in that. And you see people that kind of don't know how to interact in the real world. And for me, like going to concerts and meeting people on the fly, and I'm a pretty shy person, but like the more I talk to people in person, I can get my ideas across better. I feel like I don't translate to the internet very well. And some people do. But I think like going to things, you know, if there's a place that you like, you go to their openings for a while and you maybe meet some people and maybe you see some commonality between the work they show and that you show. And you could see that thread and maybe you can explain that thread to someone and maybe get a show with them at some point. Versus like, if you're just on the internet and you're like, I want a show, I don't know what to do. People are like, oh, I'll help you. You poor thing. Like, let's help you. And then it's like, you're not doing the work. You're asking for others. And that's kind of weird. Or it's just like people don't know etiquette. It's like tact doesn't exist. So like on the internet, people are like, yo, I want to do a show with you. And you're like, who are you? What are you doing? Where are you from? What do you make? I don't know what's going on here. And they probably don't either. They're just like, I'm going to reach out to 10,000 people. And if one bites, bingo. And that, I mean, that's kind of still how everyone's lives and careers are a tiny bit. But like the more that you're out in a place and talking to people and meeting people, people remember you. And there's some, you know, you're a part of a thing. And so like being in a place for a long time, there's a real power to that. Like that's something I realize when I move around too much. It's like I am out of sight, out of mind in certain places. So like if you're in a place a lot and you're really like around, people know who you are. It's not even like if people like you or not. It's just that you're a presence there. And so that it's just something that benefits because it's like it gets people thinking about you or talking about you. And you get out into the world more than if you're just like, I paint on the internet and I don't go outside and it's scary. It's just like, that's a defeatist attitude.
I just saw an app that in the past couple of days that keeps showing up on my feed of an AI friend. I don't remember what, and it's an app. It's on iPhone. It's an app that you can download, and it's this AI generated, person that interacts with you. And it's like now we're getting to that point where we're, and that's the next stage of, disconnecting from society when I can sit at home all day and talk to my AI friend, girlfriend or whatever,
It's fucking terrifying. And
it is.
I heard some figure that they were saying like a good like 50 or 60%, maybe even something higher than that, of like young people under the age of 18 have internet friends already or have like these AI friends. And It's because they're so lonely and they're so disconnected from the world. And you're like, fuck, we're going to be just like you said about, that we're going to just willingly walk into this world. It's like, these people are going to become pod people because they want to.
Right.
And even like, sometimes that's where I get where like when I would talk about like civilization ending and stuff, when I would do that with my work, every fucking day, I'm like, you know what? I actually wish the internet didn't exist because it just flattens the curve and everything becomes the same. And like, it's like it's kind of like globalization. When all of these markets and places and people are all in separate little areas, there's all sorts of really weird, crazy, beautiful things happening. But if everyone's seeing everyone all the time, it just goes back to being the lowest common denominator, because you're like, oh, I want to get the attention of the whole world. It's like U2 logic, where you're like, I want to make something so boring that everyone's going to like this. It's just like, oh, fuck. That's so depressing to me.
That is exactly right. It's the homogenization of our culture, right? I just saw another interview with Josh Homme from I think that's how you pronounce his name, from Queens of the Stone Age, talking exactly about this thing where, they've been traveling the world for decades now, and they're seeing it pop up all over the world. They're just talking about being in Vienna and seeing these things, this beautiful city, and how it's evolving into this thing that looks just like every other place on the face of the earth, and drawing the parallel between what we're doing culturally, but also to the music industry, what we're doing to artists as a whole, right?
There's like not a lot of risks anymore. It's like, it really is like people playing it safe. And on some level, I totally understand that, but it's just like, it just doesn't feel right to me. Like I'd rather fail and make mistakes and be like, oh, that didn't work. Well, what do we do next? It's like, I used to always say to other artists when I talked about like what I did and the longevity of it, and like that it wasn't like, oh, I did this and then this happened and then this happened. Like, I feel like I would even be bored of that. Where like, I appreciate that it has taken this like longer, slower build, because there's all this stuff that I figured out on the way. And if you're just like, I did this show, box checked. I did this thing, box checked. Now I do this thing. It's just like, it just loses its life.
Yeah.
So if it keeps interesting, then it keeps, being fun, or keeps you guessing, or, it sparks again, like kind of that youthful thinking or childlike thinking or whatever it is. It's just like, it's play, and like play is so important, and there's not as much play even in the world these days. Everyone's like, I have to do this. This is my job. And again, it's like, most people have to live that way, but it's really stifling sometimes. And it feels really stifling to think creatively in a safe way.
Speaking of creativity, are you at play and these ideas come to you, or how do you move from, or do you kind of work thematically? Like, I'm going to paint a body of work that's like this and then do something, or is it just kind of evolve? How would you describe it?
It's a little of both. I find like whenever I have a big show, or even if I just have like a really big project that I have to like, play, that, you still have to play safe in the world. But so like, if you have a big project that you're working on or something, and when you finish, like sometimes as a reward, I'm like, I'm just going to like paint some mindless things. They have no expectation, no outcome, no anything. And, a lot of them aren't good, but like a couple of them might be really good. And then like, you kind of like refine that thing a little, or you can see a direction you can go. And, you keep kind of zooming in, and I will kind of do that to the best of my ability. And then we'll kind of find a new thing that excites me and work on that. And again, it's all still pretty similar one to the next, but it's like, it's finding a different way to say it, or like how to sing this song a little different, or like even like thinking about language and dialect. It's like, how do I tell this story with a little bit of a different twist? And I'll have these kind of goofy things that I'll accumulate for a while, and then I'll look at them, and they're almost like, they're like demos where I'm like, oh, this could maybe be a finished piece. And then I scale it up. And that's like something that's been really exciting to me, where it's like, I almost have more of a plan. And then by doing that, I have more wiggle room on the fly as I'm doing it. Cause I know that if I have A, B, and C all in place right, then I can do whatever for other sections of it. And so it's just allowing time for that. And sometimes I do more straightforward. Like I did a show last year at Alto, and it was a bunch of buildings in town. And I was like, I kind of had a list where like I did Lion's Lair and El Chapultepec, and I was like, oh, well, obviously I'll do Ogden. And obviously I loved Sancho's because it was this shitty dump of a bar, but like there were so many good memories I had there. And it was really fun because then that idea took on a life of its own where like people were like, well, you need to do this next and this should be this next. And I was like, oh, I didn't really think of that one. Or so it was really fun how it presented itself. Even like as I brought this show to the gallery and was talking with Anthony Garcia and Ray Munez run the space. And Anthony was like, well, you know that all of these buildings are community spaces. And I was like, what? And he's like, it's all places where people gather. And so there's a power in that too, because it's this place where there's shared memories of this thing. And it's something that is recognizable, even if it's like a different take on it. It's almost like I'm doing a cover. And so from that, I still was able to pivot a little bit. And like, after I had 8 of these buildings that were music venues, I was like, well, what else are community spaces? And then I did a painting of Dateline, this gallery in Rhino that is like the last artist run space. And it was like, well, this is so much a community thing because people come together here and it's a safe spot. And if you scroll back just a little bit, there is the one between the 2 birds, the greenish one, just a little more up, Todd. That is Fort Greene. And Anthony, as the show is coming together, is like, well, I want to commission you to make a painting of Fort Greene. And for him, that place was community because he grew up in Globeville and he runs this rec center in Globeville and it's across the street. So like after he works all day, he would go there and hang out and knows those people. And it has become this important thing to him. And so I did that painting. And then there was another painting in the show that was literally, it was just a house. And it was like trying to think about that, like at one point in Denver back in the day, people would sit on stoops and they would just hang out on a porch and have fun. And it was like, that was enough of a gathering place. And so like that even just a house can be a community space. And so, yeah.
I'm glad you asked that question, Wes. And I'm glad you talked about this particular series because I definitely wanted you to kind of deep dive into this. What was the catalyst? Because this is a little bit different than some of the other work that you've done. What was the catalyst for you to go explore all these places in and around Denver that you felt were sacred? Was there one thing that kind of hit you over the head to go down this rabbit hole and explore?
A little bit. It was the fact that they were all places where I had enjoyed myself and had a good time and had great memories. I also saw I was in kind of a weird place when I made one of the first ones, and I'd kind of gotten out of a weird breakup, and then I had done a bunch of crazy work in Taos, and it had kind of fallen apart in the spectacular fashion. And I was like, shit, I need to do something a little more straight for a while because I just didn't have any money, kind of. And so I made this painting of the Lion's Lair, and I made it because I was just like, oh, this is beautiful. And I had a really good time. And as I put it online, I sold it within an hour. And I was like, oh shit, there's a reaction here. And as much as I prophesize about being like, oh, don't listen to an audience, it's like, if you see someone have this powerful response, you're like, oh, there's something there. And so I paid my bills last year with like, I kind of got into a good routine where I would do one of those paintings a month, and they take a long time. I would only work on that painting basically for a month, and I would put out a print and I would sell out of this print release. And, I did that for 7 or 8 months, and I was like, shit, this is paying the bills. And, selling art or making a living with art is always like, it's kind of like roulette. Like, you have like 5 or 6 things you're trying to do, and like 2 will always hit, and if 4 hit, you're like doing really good. And this was just like, oh, I know exactly what I need to do for a while. And I made all of these things, and again, it was like even attracting a little bit of a new fan base. I would put it up on, there's this Facebook group called Colo Rock Stars that is it's just a bunch of people that go to concerts and hang out, and I'd promote it on there, and I was able to like kind of get new people into what I was doing, and they'd be like, hey, whenever you do Cervantes, save me one, or like, hey, this one would be really impactful. And I'd be like, oh, I don't know if it has power to me, but it's cool to like hear those things and share and connect with people. So it was just this thing that it just happened organically again. And I think if I was like really straight about it and just like put all of them out at once, or didn't like slowly trickle them out or something, it maybe wouldn't have worked the same way. But that I took as long as I needed. I was like, well, I'll do this, and this happens. And then, sorry guys, you got to wait. You're going to have to wait a while for that one. It's not going to happen yet. And they're like, but we really want it. And you're like, sucks to be you. And but I mean, it's just this, where people got invested and interested, and they were like rooting, and they're like, I can't wait until you do this one. And then there'd be new people that would discover it and be like, you don't know the good times that I had here. I have to have this piece. So it was like this, just an even more intimate way to connect with people. Because if I had memories there, but it's like, here's hundreds of other people, probably thousands of other people that have memories at these places. So it just was, it was rewarding.
Right.
I love the series, and we've talked to other artists that have, painted iconic landmarks in and around Denver, right? I love your spin on it because it's not literal. It's very much your style, right?
Yeah.
There's certain characters that reoccur throughout your work. There's certain icons, certain symbols that you see, and you've incorporated some of that into these pieces. They very much, you know exactly what this is when you're looking at it. You have a memory there, right? But you have your style, and I love it, man. I think it's brilliant. And the fact that you were able to like hook people and build some excitement around it, right? Like when people are like, hey, I can't wait till I get to see, whatever. That's pretty awesome, right? That just kind of fell into place.
Yeah. It was so fulfilling. And again, it was doing something because I loved it. I did see that there was some success there, but it was like, oh man, I'm going to have to do this one, and it's going to take a really long time. And I would be very meticulous with these ones, much more than the way I normally paint. So I would do several drawings of these and make sure that the proportions and the, as authentic as I could have the shape be. And then once I had the shape, I could fill it with whatever. So I would because I'm an idiot, I would like have a photo on my iPhone and have my ruler and be like, this thing is 10 centimeters long. So if I scale up to 50 centimeters, doing all the math and having it all proportionally. And then again, it was that much easier to fill it with these things that I like to do. And it's still read as this known object, even as I was making this fantasy version of it.
Mm-hmm.
This is my favorite, the Ogden Theater, because one of my first experiences when I moved to Colorado was at the Ogden Theater. And it was on a Friday night. I didn't tell my parents where I was going. This is when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And I just moved from Alaska. So I was kind of naive in like the city scenario and definitely Denver. But a bunch of my friends that I had made went to the Ogden. It was on a Friday night. We went and saw the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which is what's on the marquee here. It was my first foray into like some kind of art community where everything was like, I've always been an outlier, always been, drawn to the outcasts and the freaks and stuff. And that's what that whole experience was. We went there and everybody was glammed up and dressed in characters from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And I was like, it was one of those mind-blowing experiences where you have this revelation that, wow, there's a whole group of people that are like, pushing the envelope and being artistic in a different way than you ever even imagined, right? And then that show itself, or that movie itself, because that was the first time I saw Rocky Horror Picture Show. So I see this and I am immediately transported to that time in my life and that experience.
That makes me so happy. Thank you for sharing that, Todd. Wow. Yeah. And what was so great about this is with some of these, I would go and I'd shoot my own photos because I couldn't see perspective right. But a lot of times I would just like use old photos and I never worried, obviously I'm not copying anyone's photo. It's beyond 30% of a change. But sometimes the best photos I found were from earlier years. And there was this perfect photo from 1976 or 1980. I can't remember exactly when Rocky Horror came out, but of that moment that captured it in a way that was more appealing to me. I just did a painting of the Gothic very recently, and I had this photo and I brought it up offhandedly and a couple other people said they had seen it, but I used a photo of the Gothic and it's from like the 30s. I haven't put it up yet, but it's from a Clark Gable movie called Boomtown. And it had a different facade, but it's still the general shape, but there are some little things different. But like the marquee was just bonkers. And because it was like early Hollywood, like there was like literally like a oil rig logo-y thing that they had like in front of the fucking theater, and like they had these weird little oil rig shapes that they put up as letters on the marquee. And so it's just like so unique and strange of a thing that it was like, oh man, like this is a more interesting thing than doing the straightforward version of something.
Yeah.
Right on, man. I'm glad you did this series. Like have you sold most of the originals?
I can't remember. I think I've sold like half of them or so.
Okay.
There were a couple that went very fast, and then there were a couple that were not as received. And that's kind of another thing with making work is like, there were moments when I was young where I was like, I'm going to make this thing and someone's going to want to give it a home. And then it wouldn't happen. And I'd be like, you guys have bad taste. What are you talking about? and then the same token, like I'd have a piece and I was like, I don't know if I like this one. I don't know. I don't care about this one. And then someone would have such a powerful reaction. And I'd be like, oh, what the fuck do I know? Like,
right.
So it just like, it's like, you kind of have to fail sometimes because it's otherwise, if you're just like, I'm going to do these and I'll do every one. And at one point, like for the show, before it got into the idea of community, I was like, I'm going to only do places on Colfax. And I was like, I'm going to run out of stuff real fast. And there were some things I really wanted to do. I wanted to like do Bastions, the fucking sugar steak place. Because it's just such a weird building. And I did do like the original Bourbon Chicken. But I was kind of like, well, it feels like limiting to only be things on Colfax, because there's venues I want to do that aren't there, or there's things that maybe aren't as important, but then I feel obliged to add them because they're on it. And so yeah, it was just like the meandering side of it provided.
I love that. I think that's so good. I mean, I was just thinking when you were talking about that, I was just thinking, even in Rapid City, a small town, right? 70,000 people or whatever. There's buildings being torn down. Just last week, this building I've been driving by for 6 years to go to work is now like that within 2 days gone.
Yeah.
And it was like 5 different things, usually a car lot or a car salesperson, but it's like, it's gone now. And capturing these buildings while, even from painting or photographs from the 30s is so important, because hell, probably 6 months from now, I'll be like, what the hell was there? I don't even remember. I do that shit all the time. Right.
And I mean, even with these venues, even as I was making some of these paintings, some of these places had these things happen. El Chapultepec, after I made the painting, was like, the historical committee had voted that it was important. And then I can't remember the guy's name, but it's some fucking developer who owns that block. And he's like, it's not structurally sound, but tell you what we'll do. We'll give you one wall. And like, it hasn't happened yet, but like when the Chapultepec is destroyed, it's going to be devastating. It gets such an important piece, and like, no one will even know what that was or why it was important. So it's a way to like honor these things and, kind of give them their flowers. And same thing with Bourbon Chicken. It was really amazing. There was a woman who'd been following my art just as I was doing the venues, and I met her at an event, and she was part of the historical board. So she was on this board, and they go and look at landmarks and vote on things that are important. And like we had them talk about these particular places. So they gave even better context of like why some of these movie theaters were so gaudy, and it was like to attract people and get them off the streets. And like, they talked about Bourbon Chicken, and Bourbon Chicken is going to go away. That original building is going to be torn down very soon. But they talked about like the historical significance of that building, because as Denver was coming out of downtown and coming into that neighborhood, there were buildings that had storefronts in front of them, because it was kind of like just a practical thing. So this was like one of the last remnants of that style. And they were pushing really hard to try and keep it preserved. But the guy who owned it was like, it costs so much, and there'd already been a fire and stuff. So it's like, for him, it was just a business choice. It was like, I can't, and it practical too. It's like, you can't spend money to make something designated a landmark if it's a building you own and you're paying out of pocket for it. But then it does get to exist and remain special for others.
Yeah. Which is why it's so great that those South Park boys decided that they were going to renovate Casa Bonita and let it continue to live on, right?
Yeah.
Like a destination.
Made it a glorious thing. And I mean, there's even, I'll throw just the tiniest shade at that, but there was a moment, I might say his name wrong, but there's a pretty famous cartoonist in town, Carl Krumpholz. I don't know. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to insult him, but he does great work, and he's done lots of landmarks, and he also has a very distinct style. And he had done Casa Bonita prints, and he actually got a cease and desist. So it was kind of this weird thing where I was like, well, you guys are creatives and you allow whatever, but like, you won't let this guy sell print of this thing you did. And there used to even be, I can't remember if it was Edge Gallery or not, but like, there would be like a Casa Bonita show that ran 4 years, 5 years. And I think in a sense it's gone away because there was like a little bit of a threat of like, you can't do this. I don't even know technically if that's legal, because I've just in copyright laws, it's like, a building is a building. It doesn't matter if you own the building. Like anyone can take a photo of a building. Anyone can paint a building. There's kind of nothing to stand on, but it's, again, it sort of stopped things, and it changed the mood, and so it had an effect, even though most of what they did is great.
So that show still is going on.
Sick.
Yeah, and Next Gallery is the one, if I remember correctly, is the one that puts that together every year.
Okay,
I'm 99% sure that that's the case. But right, like why it probably didn't even make its way up the food chain, right, to Trey Parker and Matt Stone.
no.
It was probably their legal team that said, that's it. Nope, this can't happen. Right.
Yeah.
They might not have even known that even, transpired. Maybe they did, but
Yeah.
I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that
I do too.
Some lawyer decided that no way, this isn't happening.
Anybody that's making Cannibal the musical has got to be cool with someone making fun of something or making a parody of a object. So I like to think that too. There's no way that they would do us dirty.
Right? Let's hope. Let's be positive about that. We are bringing back Art and Ag for its 4th year. Fleischer Family Farm, in conjunction with the Tenet Podcast, present the annual art event Art and Ag, Saturday, September 20th from 10 to 4 at 2005 South Zephyr Court in the heart of the Southern Gables neighborhood in Lakewood, Colorado. Experience this magnificent setting, buy some farm fresh produce, check out beautiful art, and support local artists. We have a stellar lineup already, including Dan Drossman, Jim Rabiolo, Megan Morgan, Lisa Diamor Sanchez, David Chatfield, Thomas and Arts, Brittany Haas, and Braden Espinoza, along with our good friend that we dearly love, if you're listening, Joey Curlin. We do have a handful of space available for artists if you would like to participate. You can email us or reach out via our socials. Stay tuned for more details. And in the meantime, check out Fleischer Family Farm, their website at fleischerfamilyfarm.com.
I'm Max Kauffman, and welcome to the Tenet Podcast.
Well, you mentioned you did prints of some of these. So do you primarily sell originals or prints or a mixture of both? How does your business model work?
It's very badly done. It's as said, it's kind of a hodgepodge. When I early on was starting to do the buildings, and the buildings first started appearing around 2012, 13, I would get a lot of commissions. So I would, kind of be paid for something and could make the work. And like a lot of it was selling originals. And there's times where I've worked with galleries and like exclusively with a gallery. And like when that was going on, I would, to the best of my ability, not try and sell originals on my own. If it's something outside of the gallery, it's kind of whatever. It's like, if I know a person, they want to buy a piece, they're going to get a piece. But so during that time, I would kind of only do that, but I would also do murals. So I could pay the bills that way. And I would do illustration work sometimes. I used to do a lot more illustration work before I was doing as much gallery stuff. And like now in the present day, it's like 10 different things. Like sometimes I only have time, like last year, to make those pieces and do prints. And then I just had this museum show. And one of the things that's tough with a show like that is it's not stuff that's necessarily for sale. It is for sale, but it's not it's not sales in the standard sense. So like offsetting that, I've been going back more to murals for the last couple months and doing that. And it's also kind of a fun excuse. I didn't feel like making as much studio work after, spending 3 years on a thing. So it's been very rewarding to paint outside and get a sunburn and just have a summer and not be like, I'm just inside, head down, painting. And that is my happy place, but it felt good to take a break. So it's all of those things. And then sometimes we haven't talked too much about this, and I don't know if we need to or not, but I have like a curation project that I run called New Folk. And a lot of times that was also something that was just fun and a way to connect with people and to show people that I care about. But it has been a sales opportunity as well, where it's been giving some artists that are very well established, like a different way to do things than they normally would, or an artist that doesn't have a very big track record, like kind of their first print or first show. And there's been a pretty good response where like that, I wouldn't say it's like paying my bills, but it offsets, a month or two a year. And then like, if there's a good painting sale, it might be one big thing. And then, maybe no one buys anything for 6 months. And it's kind of just hedging bets. And I wish sometimes it was more consistent, but it feels like the more of those different avenues that I have, when those all do hit, then it really makes a
huge impact, right?
Yeah. And it's like kind of like that concept of like mailbox money. And again, I'm not saying that in any way that is like these certain things aren't as important, but there's stuff that that I can do that is like, well, I could spend a month on this thing and then leave it alone for a while. It's like a garden. Like it's like this thing will reap benefits every 6 months if done right.
Mm-hmm. So where did New Folk come from? Where did that come out of, and where's it going?
So it started, I did the first time I curated was very early, like 2003 or 4. And I didn't know what I was doing. It was just like an extension of like throwing parties with buddies and everyone showing up and having art on the walls and drinking beers and whatever. And but when I was in Oakland, I had a show that I planned for a really long time, and I was given some really, really great opportunities in Oakland because there was someone I knew there that was from Denver. So as I showed up, I was able to like have a job waiting for me and have a show that was like 6 months later. And there was also a moment where he was getting married and basically is like, there's an open month. If you want to put a show together of people, you can. And I spent a bunch of time on this, and I've always really liked folk artists and outsider artists and kind of people that are on the fringe. And I like was thinking of titles forever. And there's this silly bluegrass album from the 70s, and it's Sam Bush and some other people I can't remember, but it was called Newgrass Revival. And it was like at the time this very avant-garde shift of bluegrass into this like kind of newer sound. And so calling it New Folk, and I actually can't remember if the show was called New Folk Revival or if it was just called New Folk. It was a way of like coalescing all of these things and kind of saying like, this is a scene, or these are my people, and this is the kind of art I understand. And from there, I actually like, I did other shows and I didn't have names for them. And then when I came back to Denver, I had a really fun project I did with the guy, Andrew Hoffman, and we called it Shorts. And it was really fun. Like it was a name and a logo that like worked on a lot of levels, but essentially the premise was like, we're going to make, when you come to an art show, as comfortable as like wearing a pair of shorts. Like, we're not going to say that this is important art that you have to research and know about. And only if you discovered this thing, we were like, you know what? We're going to have really strange, beautiful artists, but we're going to make it really accessible and kind of easy to understand. And we did that for, I think, a year or two. And then it stopped. And then I started doing stuff again. And I was like, I don't know what to call this. And I'd like thought of all these things, and with art titles and exhibit titles and, you know, names for things. I always have like a list of just like phrases where I'm like, this is stupid, I like this thing. And I just like have it in my phone and like Google Notes. And I'll like, sometimes when I need a title, I'm like, oh shit, this is going to work for this thing. It's hoarding again. And I was kind of saying that out loud on the internet. And there's an artist from Mexico, and he was like, bro, New Folk is the gang. Like, New Folk is the crew. Like, it should be New Folk. And I was like, oh my God, like, you're right. Like, I just hadn't even thought of it, but it was so perfect in Eureka. And like, it just was like, it just was. And like, I try and still have that ethos of it's very playful and it's like kind of silly, and it's very good and complicated art, but it's not pretentious in any way. And it's mostly, you know, it's not like trying to sell $10,000 paintings. Everything's like a couple $100s. So it's affordable, and it's an easy intro, and it's a way for people to collect and kind of get on the ground floor with people. And right now I don't know where it's going. I ran a physical space with a friend, Brandon Opalka, for a year and a half, starting like fall of 2023. And then like I had bowed out mostly by like June of last year, just knowing that this show was coming and that I'd have to put full focus on it. But when I would first curate shows, I would be like, I got to take like 1 month out of the year to not do me and work on other people and give back in that sense. And like, when I was doing that, it was literally like even like 6 months of both. And I just like didn't sleep, and I like really wanted this thing to work, and kind of went too deep into it. But we'd have these really powerful things happen. Like, we were in this beautiful building, the Evans School, which is now a fucking beer garden. It's nothing, but it was this haven for artists. And the first time that we put a show together, we were like, we should see if other people in the building want to get on this. And there were open studios in conjunction with our openings, and we would do openings like during the day, because we were like, every first Friday is unlocked, first Saturday is unlocked. Like, we're gonna do like noon to 3, and all these people would come out, and it was crazy because it was tons of people that I'd never knew or had met, but it was at a different time of day versus like a nighttime opening. So a whole new audience came, and then, you know, kind of everyone was like, you should still do a night opening. And we're like, well, maybe we will. And then the first time we did a night opening, there were like 400 people, and we're like, holy shit, maybe we should do night openings. And it was so fun, and it was so great to give, but I like lost myself in it. And again, I had like gone through like a really weird breakup, and had like walked away from a house that I'd bought with someone, and then had this like bonkers show go wrong in Taos in the most spectacular way. That's a story for another day. But so I just like went into this thing, and it was so great. But then I was like, oh shit, I got to pull up. Like, I haven't given me any time. So like, I took a break, and then this year I've done just kind of like a little project a month where it's like, here's like 4 things from someone I really like. And that's felt really easy to keep going. Each person I'd give, I found this great photo of a cassette tape liner from the 70s, like this beautiful image. And I'd print it out and send it to them and say, write out your playlist by hand. And then I'd scan it and I'd like make a little playlist on Spotify. So it was like a way to like learn about these people more and access them from ways that aren't just art. And so there'd be like a mixtape and then like a little release. And one or so a month or one every couple months has felt sustainable. And I think I'd like to go back to doing shows, but at this point it feels like it has to be something bigger or more, a way for artists to really get something out of this. I saw in running a physical space that like, my favorite kind of shows, and probably every city, but like the classic Denver group show is like 100 people in a show, 500 people come out. Like it's just this huge hoopla and it's great and everyone shows up, but there's so much work that like no one sees anything. So it was like, oh, like I only want to do shows with like a few people. So you can, again, you see that context or you see 1 or 2 people really shine. And so I don't know exactly what that looks like, but one of the last bigger ones I did was in Trinidad at a museum, and it was bringing some people from Denver down. And I'd like to try and do more of that where it's like a museum show. So it's, again, something a little more where these people are getting, it's benefiting them a little more than just like a show in a space. And so I'm hoping to do that, but it's something that is going to take longer and might only be able to do like 1 a year or 2 a year. And I don't know.
Yeah.
It shall present itself.
And I want you to mention that there's a website, right, for this curation you've been doing, this New Folk.
Yeah.
Tell people that.
It's New Folk Shop. And at one point I had New Folk and I like bought it on like Google domains and did something wrong and lost it. But it's neufolkshop.com. And it's on Instagram as well. It's New Folk. And there's a 0 for the O on the Instagram handle. And actually next week, or I guess when this comes out, it will be online. There's going to be a release with this artist, Paloma Jimenez, who's an unbelievable ceramicist from Denver. And she just does stuff that's kind of like the magic of every day or like the magic of the mundane. And like the first time I put out something of hers, she did 6 ceramic socks, and they're all lost socks. Like they're mismatched socks, and they sold out in an hour. It was crazy. And then the next time she was like, I was like, what do you feel like putting out? And she was like, I want to do beer bottles. And I was like, oh yeah, I think people would like respond to like, you got a Sierra Nevada ceramic bottle. And she's like, no, I've been like staring at my bookshelf and I want to make beer bottles that talk about famous seminal female authors. So she did a Gertrude Stein one. She did a Virginia Steck one. She did a Bell Hooks one. And like, they were just so fucking fun. And it's like nothing I could have ever come up with in a million years. So this next one is going to be trash items. So she has like a little rat that's like on a bag of Cheetos, and like apple cores that are incense holders, and like there's a Mr. Pibb can, and then there's a can that just has like earworm or earthworms all over it. So it just, yeah, there's it's just so playful, and it's again, it's so fun. And like a lot of these artists are people where I see that kindred spirit, either in exploration or thinking outside the box, or just like people that are obsessed and have to make stuff. So
Brilliant. And I love this ethos of like giving back to the community by highlighting these people that maybe get overlooked, and the philosophy behind it, right?
yeah, thank you. I just think about, you talk about things pre-digital age, and we all had to like dig for music. We had to find these genres we loved. We had to fucking sift through records. And as a young artist in the really early days of the internet, I had no fucking clue what anyone did, or I saw a Juxtapose magazine and my brain exploded. And there were a couple people that I really liked from that. But then I found like Flickr when Flickr was like this important thing, and it was like the way that I started finding these similar weirdos. And I feel like as I explored so much, I just think about if I was younger and someone had been like, "Hey kid, you're doing a good job. Hey, keep up the good work." Like just how much that would mean when I was like just throwing fucking darts at a wall, and just, yeah, to see that, like, me telling these people that I believe in them and that I want to help them, and just that act even goes way beyond any financial thing or anything. It's like maybe that's how they keep making work, or they're inspired to keep going and to give a shit, knowing that other people care. And again, there's not as much communication like that in the world these days. So it's just like being like, "Hey, I believe in you. I might not be able to do much, but like, let me at least like give you a hand."
Right. Yeah. No, that's great. That's fantastic.
We're going to start to wrap this up, but we cannot leave off today without talking about this museum show that you currently have in South Bend called City in a Garden. Let's talk about that for a little bit.
Okay. So I had this very large show with another artist, Melanie Daniel, an unbelievable oil painter. And the show also kind of came about in an interesting fashion. I had always wanted to show in South Bend because it's my hometown, and it had been when this show opened, it was the first time I'd shown work there in 20 years. I had at one point long ago, like, reached out to the curator, and again, like, was a little like, "Hey, I'm from South Bend. You should do a show with me." And rightfully, he ignored me. And then later there was a show. I think there was a show there that focused on murals, and he had learned about me from someone, and he was like, "Hey, I want you to be in the show." And I was like, "I'd love to. I don't live in the area though, so I'd have to come out and paint." And he was like, "Well, let's not do that, but maybe we can do something else." And he was kind of like, like, "Let me think of something where you could fit in." And I gave him a book, and then unfortunately 3 months later he was fired. But when he was fired, this woman came in, and it was someone that I knew and I had actually worked with on some projects before. And she sent me a note, and she was like, "Your book's on my desk. We have to do a show together." And I was like, I'm not going to argue that. And as it came together, there were kind of moments where maybe we were going to try and do something like very fast. And I was like trying to make a bunch of work very quickly. And finally I was like, "I can't do this. Like, let's figure out the right thing and set a time." And she was like, "Okay, if you can wait a year, you can do a show in the project space. If you can wait 2 years, you can do a show in the main room and pick who you're showing with. And I was like, I'll wait 2 years. And I thought for a long time about who I'd want to show with. And the show that they do these shows every 2 years, and they're called Conversations. And it's like two artists that have an affinity, either geographically or style or whatever it is. And so I tried to think of people that I really admired or that I had felt a kinship with. And Melanie and I had followed each other on Instagram for a couple years. And I hemmed and hawed for a couple months, and then finally like got the courage up to like write her a letter asking if she wanted to participate. And an hour later, she was like, yes, thank you. This would be amazing. And then, I was just planning it out. It's 5,000 square feet in the main space. So it was an undertaking.
That's huge, man.
Yeah. I literally like made work for a couple years because it was basically so big that I couldn't even like really imagine the thing. And I actually have seen people do like a maquette, like they'd make like a diorama of something and then like put their images up. And I feel like I would do that in the future to plan something like this better, but I just couldn't conceive of how big this was. So I just like was making work. And I knew that I would go out there and like, once I saw it and saw the space and everything, it would come to I'd be able to see what I needed to do. And so I did that. And then like in the interim, Melanie was like, I'll probably start painting at some point. And we'd have these like little WhatsApp calls. She lives in another country, so we would do these WhatsApp calls every couple months and check in. And she's like, yeah, I think I'll start like painting in January. That should be enough time. And she made 15 pieces in like 3 months and then shipped them out. And I was just like, oh, this is a level of professional that I didn't even know. The show just, it came together so beautifully. And even the show did have some scary moments. The curator who put the show together quit last November. So there was no one curating or no one that I could talk to there for several months. And then basically as I got to Indiana in March, they'd hired a new curator. It was, parts of it were very difficult, but parts of it were just unbelievable. And she, took our work and just assembled a collection to the best of her ability of like how it felt to have our stuff connected together. And it's just outstanding. Yeah. I'm running out of words. Sorry. But it's like the largest thing I've ever done. And it came out really well. I'm so happy with it. And I'm not good at resting on my laurels, I guess, but this is something I feel real satisfied with. And the interplay that I have that Melanie and I's work has is really interesting. There's almost like a as above, so below kind of thing where like a lot of my stuff for the show is sort of like portals or entryways or little tiny imagined spaces. And then hers are these like full blown universes of things that you were just right in the middle of. They're so powerful. And when I was making all of these paintings, the way that I felt I was tying them all together was that I kind of joked to buddies. I was like, this is like my bluegrass era, or this is my like singer-songwriter era. It's a little stripped down and they're a little closer to like drawings than paintings, but they're much more I don't know. Again, there's a lot of, there's like a very lyrical quality to them. And Melanie's is almost like, do you guys know Cormac McCarthy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Melanie's work is like a 5-page run-on sentence of Cormac McCarthy describing something where you see it so visually and powerfully, like it's so visceral and real. It's so amazing. So it's almost like, and she, I mean, she has lots and lots of minimalism in her work too, but it's just this like overwhelming feeling and immersion that you get from these, like in the best way. And I think of mine almost as like, they're like these little gentle things, like a way to like say something soft, but on a large scale.
This has been up since the end of May.
Yeah.
And it goes through the end of August, August 24th, I believe is when it closes.
Yeah.
Talk about this particular piece that I have pulled up.
So that piece,
what's the title of it?
It's called Unbridled Growth. And this is like one of the most succinct examples of probably 3 or maybe even 4 years ago, I had a bunch of little like 5x7 sheets of paper. And as I talked about earlier, I love to like play with like tiny pieces because you can cover a bunch of ground really fast and just throw out ideas and see what works. And I made a bunch of things that felt very aquatic and very, for some reason, they made me kind of think of like sailing or being in water. I had this little drawing for a long time and I was like, I know I want to do something with this, but I don't know what it is. And like, as this show came together, there were a couple pieces that were like, you know, like anything else, like there were pieces that came very easily and there were pieces I labored over. And this was one where I like looked at this small thing and I was like, I'm just going to make this 3x4 feet this piece is 2x3 feet. And it scaled up and it like, I finished that piece in like 3 days. And it is so true. I'll try and find, I think I still have the drawing somewhere. I'll try and find the drawing and send it to you guys, but it's just so true to this smaller thing. And it's like it's a large painting, or it's large for me, but it still has this like intimate kind of thing that you get with like watercolor and paper or like drawing on paper.
It's beautiful. I love it.
Thank you. And I used to also, there's several in this show, but I used to do a lot of, as I said, I would do animals. And then even from animals, I was only doing birds for a while. I did birds all the goddamn time. And at some moment, someone was like, hey, you're that bird guy, aren't you? And it was also like as Portlandia was coming out. So there was like a 6-month period where every single person I saw was like, hey, put a bird on it. And I was like, no, I don't do birds anymore.
That's funny.
And then I like, like went to something else. And then like, when I'm doing these unconscious exercises and kind of like searching for stuff, I come back to, I come back to all these different shapes and former languages and glyphs and icons and everything that I'd use. And I started doing birds again, but in just a much different way. So this was kind of also the first time I had shown a bunch of work like that in a long time. So it was much more than normal, like a really personal show. And again, like maybe not the smartest show to make versus like doing, like coming out of a very successful show with buildings. Like I was like, oh, be smart if I just made a whole bunch of building paintings. But it was like, oh, I want to do this more delicate thing. Time will tell. I'm a little terrified because I don't know what to do after a show of this scale.
Right.
But again, I'm very satisfied with it. And
Yeah, your work and her work really meld well together. They look good together.
yeah, Francis, the curator, did such a good job pulling them. Like it's hard to see the context in these photos, but there are little groupings that she did where, a bunch of her animal things were next to a bunch of animals of mine. This two pieces that you have pulled up, those were right next to the piece of hers that's a little higher up. That's a huge house that's like enveloped with trees and stuff. There's another moment where there's just a row of things. This one right here, yeah. There's another moment where there's a row of pieces that are a little disparate, but if you look, she and I use like the exact same fucking shade of pink in like 3 or 4 things. So like all these pieces, the shared thread is just these little bits of like hot pink. So it came together so well, and it's amazing. So it was so cool. We actually didn't get to meet because it was difficult for her to get into the country as some stuff was going on. So she to get to see the show, but I had already left town. So it was surreal because we'd, become friends and gotten to know each other and share the similarity with work. And then, we haven't even met in person yet.
That's so crazy, man.
Yeah. So it's just surreal. And the whole thing has just been, it's been beautiful. Parts of it have been painful, but it's been a learning curve to understand what something like this is.
Now, is this a pretty well-known entity in South Bend?
Yeah, it's the only art museum, or there's one other art museum at Notre Dame on campus, but this is the only art museum, and it's been in it's kind of cool. It's in a building that's been owned by the city and used for things. So it's kind of been connected to the city the whole time, and it's been there, I think, since the 50s. It's also a museum. I don't know how rare this is now, but it's a museum that collects too. So they have a really fascinating collection. They have a lot of, I'm going to say this wrong, but there's a really interesting style of Chicago artists from the 60s and 70s. I think they were called the Imagists or the Futurists, but it was sort of like the first artists in pop culture that were doing work that was kind of influenced by cartoons and comics and kind of modern era. So the context of this show and our work, and then going around the corner, there's a gallery they have that's dedicated to their collection that's ever changing, to see these other people in the 70s doing these like insane kind of like weird, cartoony, folky, surreal things. It was really nice, kind of icing on the cake to see that context.
That sounds really cool. I wish this was closer because I would love to go see it in person.
Yeah. That was the tricky part, is getting people to come out. And there was an unbelievable opening. They broke their attendance records. It was
nice.
Fucking crazy. And I had, people I saw punk rock shows with when I was a kid, and guys I'd skateboarded with, and guys I made art next to for 20 years. And friends from Chicago came out. A couple people from Denver even surprised me. So
wow,
it was fucking insane. I'm getting goosebumps again. It was as tough as certain parts of getting this show to happen were. It was easily the best opening and reception to work that I've ever had. So it was, I'm trying to hold on to that as much as I can. And I'm even like, I don't even know when I want to do a show again next, even though I'm going to do a pop-up next week, but you got to pay the bills too, but
exactly.
To do something of this magnitude again, I'm like, I don't know when it'll happen. I feel like I want to be courted before I do something like that. Someone's got to ask me to dance right before I step up to something like that again.
Well, it took a long time to put together.
Yeah. Yeah. It was.
And number of people.
Yeah. No, it was a larger form. So it again, last music analogy. This was a double album. This was like, oh shit. That's not Siamese Dream. This is like Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. So it's, I feel like I got to wait at least a couple years till something this big happens again.
Yeah.
I like that analogy, man. Congratulations. It looks spectacular.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah,
it does.
super stoked for you. You mentioned this pop-up that you're going to be doing here. When does that happen and for how long will you, and where is it happening?
August 1st. So next Friday or in a few days, I'm going to do something at Dateline. We're going to have a print release of this Dateline image of the painting. And I'll have a couple other kind of small pieces up and a few other things that kind of continue this idea. And it'll be Friday and maybe for a little bit on Saturday, but that's
okay. So really short.
Pretty short.
Okay.
Nice.
What is your idea of perfect happiness?
Damn. Either great food with folks or like being at a concert with all your buddies and just not having a care, not thinking about anything or worrying about where your next meal or budget or whatever, wherever that's coming from, just being able to be present and just have that with your friends and experience that something magical together. I sound so fucking hippie.
Dude, that's right in my wheelhouse. What you just talked about right there, that brings me happiness for sure. I love live music. I love going to concerts. I love breaking bread with people and sharing good food.
Cooking for people too. I love
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's one of the beautiful things in this world is to be able to connect with people over food.
Yeah.
I have been in scenarios where I didn't even speak the language, but I could still sit with a group of people eating good food and still find a way to communicate and have a great time and share a laugh. And there's nothing better. I think if we did that more in this world, there'd be a hell of a lot less problems.
Yeah. No, 100%. All right, one last dumb music story. So I a few years ago, my buddy Jeannie and I were like, we should go see music somewhere where we haven't. And this came out of I did a show in Canada a long time ago, like 2012, and it was on Vancouver Island in this tiny little town, Courtenay. And she flew out, and we like hung out and did all these magic things, basically in this rainforest. And then we went to Vancouver, and we were supposed to see this group, Maps and Atlases, which is this like weird mathy little band from Chicago. And Canada is really tough because, if you have crimes that you've done in the past, sometimes you can't get in. Sometimes if it's stuff even that you don't think would matter. And they got turned away, so they couldn't do that leg of the tour. And we're like, damn, it didn't dampen anything, but it was like, that would have been fun. And so this was 2016. Radiohead went on tour, and Radiohead never fucking goes on tour. And we were like, what if we went to Mexico City to see Radiohead? And we're like, what the fuck? That would be fun. That sounds stupid. We should do it. And so we did that, and we saw this Radiohead show. But even crazier, I got there a day early, and I was walking around, and I found a newspaper, and Roger Waters was playing a free fucking show in the Zocalo, which is the historic district. And I was like, hey, you want to see a Roger Waters show before Radiohead? And she's like, yeah. What else am I doing? Yeah. So we went and like, you know, didn't speak the language. I feel disrespectful now of like to go there and still not speak Spanish very well, but you know, we could still communicate and get points across. And there were 250,000 people at the show. And so it was like this main plaza. And then there were just, you know, different streets going down that just had screens. And we were like running from riot cops, and there were like temporary walls getting put up. And we were just like, you know, just being dummies running around. And we sat and we were like on this street with 20,000 people and like watching the show. And then we saw Radiohead, and it was, I don't know if it was because it was in another country, or I've heard that sometimes like in South America and in Mexico, like people are much more appreciative of musicians coming through because it doesn't happen as much. So we saw Radiohead, and it was very powerful. And, you know, no one had their phones up. No one was taking photos. There'd be like groups of people, like 10 or 20 people, all like linking arms and swaying and singing. And at the end of the show, the house lights went on, and the crowd made a noise. I've like never heard a noise like this in my life. Like it was such a roar of happiness, and the house lights were on, and fucking, what's his name? I can't remember his Tom York comes out and is like, holy shit. And they like played Creep with the house lights on. Like the show was over, and they're like, oh fuck, we got to give them one more.
Wow.
And so doing that with like people that didn't even speak the language, it was amazing.
That's cool. Yeah. I got goosebumps just hearing about that, man.
We tried to do it again once. There was a psych rock festival in Mexico City we went to, and we were going to see King Gizzard there. And this one's a fail. The night we were in Mexico, and the night before the festival, we're sitting having a drink, and I'm like, let's see what our half-mile walk is to the show tomorrow. We get on Instagram, and the show had been moved from where it was going to be to one state over. So all of a sudden it was 50 miles away.
Oh my God.
And we're like, well, looks like we have to get a cab. And we fucking took a cab out and drove like through the fucking mountains and through the favelas, and, you know, went to this weird spot in the forest, and the whole show was fucked up and so badly put together. And it started pouring rain, and it was like literally going to flood. And so we saw like 3 bands, and we're like, we have to leave and get the fuck out of here because it's so remote. At one point we were going to walk to the town, and a bunch of people, again, even though we couldn't speak too much English or speak Spanish, they were like, do not go to the town. You will not be around. You have to just get a cab. And so we were like hovering around an umbrella, just rain pouring, and like got an Uber and like drove through this pouring rain. And we're like, that sucked, but still a good adventure. You know?
Well, it's a story, right? It's an adventure that you can talk about later. But good God, like Mexico, it could be.
It was, again, looking back on it, I was like, God, there's some really stupid moves that we did here. But again, it was like, well, we had a good time.
Sometimes that works in your favor, being a little naive about stuff, right?
Sometimes the universe doesn't provide, and that's okay too.
As long as we don't read about you in the national newspaper.
Exactly. I think as I get older, I'm like, maybe I do one of those every couple years now. Yeah. Less risks, less gigantic risks.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man. Wes, you got anything else you want to ask?
No,
Max,
man, this has been fantastic. This has been an awesome, I don't know. I think we're like 3 hours.
Yeah, guys, this was so fun. 3 hours did just go by. It
happens all the time.
We just had a gay old time.
And an hour of it was with you, and the rest of it was just me and Todd being stupid. So,
this was outstanding.
I'd have to say, this is the first time I ever did a podcast without a shirt on. So
Oh, okay.
So
Nice.
although I did get cold.
Yeah.
I wish I was cold.
Now you're clothed.
Yeah. Now I'm clothed.
Max and I are
Thank
shirtless.
God. Yeah.
Still hot in here, but it's okay. I had a really good
It's
time.
getting hot
I didn't
in
think
here.
about it.
Man, it was a wonderful conversation. I really enjoyed, talking with you and connecting. And I feel like I know that we just barely scratched the surface. So we would love to have you come back on at some time, at a later date and have more conversation, talk about what you have going on, talk about things that we didn't talk about today.
Yeah.
And, let's not be strangers. And when Wes comes to town, maybe we can maybe we can all get together and have a coffee or whatever. So
that'd be fun. Yeah.
No, I look forward to chatting with
right.
you guys again. And Todd, I'll be seeing you around.
Nice.
Right on.
I don't know where you live, but I know your neighborhood. So
I can
yeah,
find
you know my hood. So
I have certain skills and I know where you live.
I'm not going to say I'm creeping on you, but you'll look around every now and then, check on you.
Look over my over my shoulder a little bit. Oh, thank you so much, man.
Thank you guys. This was such a treat. This was unreal.
Yeah. Thanks.
Again, don't forget to follow Max on Instagram at Witty Banterism and check out Max's incredible work at his website, wittybanterism.com. And if you happen to be in the South Bend area, be sure to stop in at the South Bend Museum of Art and check out Max's show with Melanie Daniel, City in a Garden, currently on display through the 24th of August. I will have all this and more in this week's episode notes. For the Tenant Podcast, I'm Todd Pearson.
And I'm Wes Brown. Have a great week.
Guys, I cannot deal with the level of excitement I have right now.